You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on the 11 o'clock hour, BPR, live from our NEPM studios in Springfield. We'll start this show with you and more reaction to the deep political divides exposed in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's killing. Today we're asking how you're reacting to the discourse. Political violence obviously is never acceptable, and we do mourn any loss of life. But do we also have to celebrate Kirk's life if we don't agree with how he lived it? Please call or text.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then we're joined in studio by former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick on the polarization across the country at this moment. It's all ahead on the 11 o'clock hour at BPR and GBH and NEPM, live from Springfield.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The United States and China have agreed on the framework to save TikTok. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jameson Greer made the announcement today outside of Spain's Foreign Ministry building in Madrid. Ashish Valentine reports it's the result of high-level trade talks between Washington and Beijing.
Bessent said the day's negotiations had focused on TikTok, and the deal would likely switch TikTok's parent company to U.S.-controlled ownership.
President Trump and Party Chair Xi will speak on Friday to complete the deal, but we do have a framework for a deal with TikTok.
It marked the end of this set of trade talks between Bessent and China's Vice Premier, He Lifeng. Bessent and Greer said the two sides would meet again to keep ironing out other issues like tariffs. The U.S. and China agreed last month to extend a temporary tariff truce till November the 10th. For NPR News, I'm Ashish Valentine in Taipei.
The Trump administration says it's planning to send the National Guard to Memphis, Tennessee, as part of its nationwide crackdown on crime in U.S. cities. But a potential deployment has some residents concerned. George Taylor says it feels more like a police takeover.
The people that live here are very, I think, self-sufficient, and I think our military and people that we have here are very capable of taking care of what's going on here in Memphis without any outside intrusion.
FBI records show Memphis has one of the highest violent crime rates in the United States, with a quarter of the population living in poverty. President Trump will travel to the United Kingdom on Tuesday for a state visit. The U.S. and U.K. are expected to sign agreements on technology and nuclear energy during his visit. But persistent questions about the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein threaten to overshadow those details. NPR's Lauren Frere reports from London.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer fired his ambassador to Washington, Peter Mandelson, ahead of Trump's visit, after letters came out that Mandelson had written to Jeffrey Epstein. Now some in Starmer's own party are asking what the Prime Minister knew, when, and why he kept Mandelson on for so long. This could come up while Starmer and King Charles are hosting the U.S. president. Trump and the King's brother, Prince Andrew, were also once friends in the past with the late sex offender. Trump, Starmer, and the King would all likely rather focus on U.S.-UK deals to open artificial intelligence data centers and to partner on nuclear energy. Trump is traveling with business leaders, including the heads of OpenAI, NVIDIA, and BlackRock. Lauren Frere, NPR News, London.
Stocks are trading higher on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow was up 74 points, the Nasdaq up 171. This is NPR News in Washington.
Good morning with the latest from the GBH newsroom in Boston. I'm Henry Santoro. Big transportation conference happening in Boston today through Wednesday. It's called the American Public Transportation Association's Transform Conference, and it's happening at the Menino Convention and Exhibition Center. Included are sessions, workshops, and on next-gen AI and automated technologies, transformative mega projects, World Cup security challenges, fare evasion strategies, workforce strategies, and transit at the ballot box. One of the many speakers today, Massachusetts Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll. Also attending are top officials at MassDOT as well as the MBTA. And a new candidate is officially launching a campaign for Lieutenant Governor of Massachusetts today. Ann Brensley is an attorney, a Voiland Select Board member, and the founder and CEO of a software company. She is running as a Republican. In a campaign statement, she says that she's running to bring focus back to the state's communities from affordability to better schools, cleaner water, and safer streets. Brensley says she'll be taking her campaign on the road, visiting a majority of towns throughout Massachusetts and talking directly to
John, what's the out
voters. Again? In sports, the Sox are off today and host the Athletics at Fenway tomorrow. Monday Night Football, Tampa Bay at Houston at 7, and then the LA Chargers at Las Vegas. That game starts at 10. 71 degrees in Springfield right now, 69 in Boston. Live from NEPM in Springfield, it's Boston Public Radio coming right up.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Cy Sims Foundation. Since 1985, supporting advances in science, education, and the arts towards a fairer, more just, and civil society. More information is available at cysimsfoundation.org.
New Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. We are live from NEPM's gorgeous Star Studio. This is a really nice studio, Jim.
Even though we've made it like a recycling center in just a couple of hours, by the way, we're destroying this place.
Well, anyway, it's a gorgeous studio. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back here tomorrow as well. We're going to be joined tomorrow by the Attorney General Andrea Campbell and much more. By the way, Jim, this studio is designed by the team that built Kim Kardashian's podcast studio.
That's so.
La-di-da. We had dinner last night at the Student Prince Cafe. It was fantastic. And the fort, Jim ate kangaroo sausage and shared it with John Sutton and Tony Dunn, who work here at the station. They're very gracious hosts. I did not have the kangaroo sausage
Actually,
myself.
John Sutton shared it with us, but that's close enough.
Okay.
It is pretty exciting to be here, is it not?
Yeah, it's great.
A little bit later in the show, we're going to talk about our Springfield experience. And even a little later in the show, we're going to talk about our trip to the Big E this afternoon when we are done.
That's right, Flatliners.
Stick around. So we're going to start the show precisely where we ended it last week, where the nation's collective mind seems to be focused. The assassination of Charlie Kirk and the response to the murder. You know, it's almost incredible that you have to say what I'm about to say, which, of course, is that his death is a tragedy. It is a horror. Political violence of any kind is totally unacceptable. I hope you join us in mourning the loss of life, any life. Yet it does increasingly feel, even more after the weekend, that we all feel like we have to celebrate his viewpoints as well, even if we strongly disagree with them. I'll give you some examples. Various NFL teams yesterday held a moment of silence before their games. I think the Yankees did too. People have lost their jobs because they've posted on social media about Kirk, often highlighting the disrespectful things he had to say about women, people of color, members of the LGBTQ community, on and on. And you know, and so what happened to free speech, even if it's offensive speech? The number is 877-301-8970. We want your thoughts after the weekend when the news has been almost exclusively about Kirk and the reaction to Kirk. How are you feeling about the state of affairs, the state of the country, and the central question we also asked on Friday, even if you mourn a loss of life, what it meant to people who love Kirk, his family, political allies. Should we all be forced, which I think we are, to celebrate his life, even if we have real problems with how he lived it? The number's 877-301-8970. Can I play again? The other day I played the latest statements from the governor of Utah, who is a very conservative Republican, Spencer Cox, and Donald Trump. Here's an update. This is what each of them had to say, part of what they had to say on Friday. First, during a press conference on Friday, Governor Cox explained why this case matters so much.
We will never be able to solve all the other problems, including the violence problems that people are worried about, if we can't have a clash of ideas safely and securely. Even especially those ideas with which you disagree.
And then there's Donald Trump, who never misses opportunity to blame someone for something, never misses an opportunity to divide the American people. Here's Trump on Fox and Friends on Friday, and then part of his White House speech after Kirk's killing. Here it is.
The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today.
By the way, I know this should not be new to anybody. Is it unbelievable that he never misses an opportunity to divide people?
Well, as millions of people, not millions of people, but as many people have pointed out by now, he's governing for one segment of the country, and it's his supporters, not for the entire country. But I think what's tough here, though, is that it's very difficult to know that your flag is lowered, or people are wishing or honoring a moment of silence for someone who's trying to take away certain people's rights. I mean, he's trying to take away the rights of the LGBT community, obviously. He was opposed to trans rights. And he said some things that are trying to take the rights away of some Black Americans as well, talking about the replacement theory and white people being replaced. So I think it's very difficult to ask anybody who doesn't hold those views to feel they should honor this person as much as they abhor the violence. I mean, the governor talking about, we should absolutely be able to say whatever we want in safe spaces without violence, and that's true. But it doesn't mean you have to lower the flag or take a moment of silence. Means you're honoring a person, and this is a person that wanted to take away hard-won rights: women, trans people, people of color.
Did Trump lower the flag when Melissa Hortman, the former Speaker of the House in Minnesota, when she and her husband were killed in their house? Did he lower the flag?
I know some people, in some places.
I know. Did Donald Trump?
Not that I recall, but I could be wrong.
Peter from Mystic, Connecticut. I'm a huge NPR fan. This is a text. And a contributor, but I can't listen to this nonsense about how Charlie Kirk was, quote, a conservative activist all day. He was a provocateur, hateful, divisive, racist, misogynist, homophobic, hate monger. NPR, I expect more of you. I don't think you've gotten that here. I have to say, I agree. I don't think conservative is a fair description either. And let me be clear, there was a faith service last night. I'm going to state another thing that is pathetically obvious at the Kennedy Center by people who admired him. Go for it. If you admired what Kirk had to say, that troubles me, but you of course should honor that if that's your cup of tea. There's going to be a huge, probably filling a stadium. I think it's in Arizona.
Yeah, 63,000 people.
Is that what it is? I don't know what that's going to be. Go for it. But the notion that, as Marjorie said before, that we're in a position, if you're in a state or watching a game, where you feel forced to buy into the rhetoric and the whole worldview is really, it's troubling. It's deeply troubling. What's most troubling, though, is that Trump is the provocateur that he is. Want your thoughts? We took him on Thursday and Friday, but there have been more developments over the weekend. We'd like to know where you stand. 877-301-8970. Mention the thing about the black colleges,
Yeah, just
too.
a day after Charlie Kirk was murdered, black students all across the country were targeted by these coordinated racist death threats at New York University. This is according to The Guardian. Black students reportedly received this threatening manifesto containing extremely graphic threats of gun violence, stating the author was coming only for N-words. That he used the entire word, citing the number of students at NYU, black students, taking away from a, quote, safe space for white people. And then at least 7 historically black colleges and universities went on lockdown Thursday: Alabama State, Virginia State, Hampton University. And officials there spoke about these threatening all these threats intending to go after people at those schools. And Alabama State University, they suspended operations out of an abundance of caution. They're not doing that now, but this happened right after Kirk was assassinated.
One last text before we get to the calls at 877-301-8970. The end of an anonymous texter's message. Just because you disagree with his beliefs and what he stood for does not mean he deserved violence against. I don't know who you're speaking to, anonymous texter. None of us, surely not me and Marjorie, are saying anybody deserves violence against them because of their point of view. But by the way, we don't disagree with his beliefs. There are a lot of people I disagree with whom I have colossal respect. Most of those people wouldn't call George Floyd a scumbag. You can say, I disagree with how George Floyd lived his life. You can say whatever you want. Disagreement and vitriol and what at least Marjorie and I consider to be, in many cases, hate speech is not the same thing. Let's take some calls. 877-301-8970.
Tamara in the car. Thanks for calling, Tamara.
Welcome. Hi.
Hello?
Hi, you're on. Welcome.
Hi, I think it's Mendez. I don't know about tomorrow, but
Oh, sorry, Mendez.
I'm sorry.
Our apologies.
I'm sorry.
Take it away. Welcome.
no, it's all right. Thank you. I love you guys.
Thanks.
So my point is, I think free speech is based on who's in the office at the moment.
Yeah.
And it sounds crazy, but it's like the truth. It don't matter who's in, who's out. It's just based on what I'm seeing nowadays. I mean, don't get me wrong. There should be no toleration of political violence and violence in general. But the way everything's going, it's like no matter what you say, it depends on who's in the office that controls free speech.
You know, that's a great point. It's there's a lot of talk about the free exchange of ideas with Charlie Kirk, but he was going after a lot of professors who said things that he didn't like. So I'm not sure how much of a free speech champion he was. It sounds more like what you're talking about, that if it was speech he didn't like was a different story.
Mendez, thank you for the call. Sorry we got the name wrong.
Yeah.
877-301-8970 is the number.
We've got Rumi in Sharon, I believe.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for calling. Are you there?
Hello?
Yes, I am. You can hear me?
We can. We can. Yep.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Fantastic. So my reasoning is simple. It's not based on political affiliation, but I believe that if you argue that deaths are the unavoidable price of the Second Amendment, then consistency demands that that standard apply to everyone, including yourself. Otherwise, it is in principle, it's hypocrisy. So, and of course, I'm not condoning violence or death, but I'm simply saying that for those who do and treat that gun deaths are just the cost of freedom, then their own lives cannot be exempt from that bargain. Again, no matter your political affiliation.
Well, you know, guns have not been very much part of this debate, even though that's what took the life of Charlie Kirk. So I'm glad you put them back into this conversation. Have you heard anybody who's more? Thanks for the call.
He talked about that. He talked about that people, Kirk, that is, talked about that to keep our Second Amendment rights alive, there may be the price of that may be.
No. I meant in the wake of Kirk's killing, has anybody who's mourned his loss, who shares his point of view, talked about maybe we have to address the gun issue?
But what we have learned about the alleged shooter in this case is that he grew up in a hunting family, and he's been hunting with his family all his life. It's interesting. Many people have pointed out he grew up in his parents are both Republican. He's not. He's entitled. He's registered to vote, but he is not affiliated with one party or another party. But a lot of people have commented on this was not in any way sort of a dysfunctional family, and he seemed to be doing really well in school, very bright kid, and was radicalized, at least according to the governor of Utah, in just the last couple of years.
But the governor of Utah, I believe the governor of Utah mentioned that his roommate was transitioning.
Yes.
Didn't do what you would expect from some Trumpian souls. Actually, I believe praised his roommate for cooperating fully in the investigation and didn't go where, again, one should not go until you have evidence. By the way, Jeff in Providence does text on the subject we just mentioned. I'm mourning the loss of life due to gun violence yet again. And it is yet again. Where are we going, Marjorie?
John, I can't read where you're from, John, but John from somewhere. Thank you for calling.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're well. Thanks for your call.
Good. I have to disagree with a lot of the comments you made, and we're never going to have enough time to cover them all. I would just implore you to please read the hate speech that you believe Charlie was projecting.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was, he had differences of opinion with people, and that's what he wanted to do. Prove me wrong. Everything he preached came from the Bible, from the truth. Now, that's a whole different discussion. Just let me finish with this.
Sure, no, go right ahead, John.
You go on about Trump, but look at everything that's happened to that man over the last 8-10 years because he wanted to run for government. You don't like him, that's fine. But you guys take him to court. You destroyed his family. You try to destroy. So I mean, the things you did to him that you never report on.
Who are you talking to?
What did we?
Who are you talking about?
What did we do?
Who is you?
You're right. I should let me qualify that. Whoever attacked him, I'll say the Democratic Congressman Schiff that literally went on TV at night and said that he had evidence that he was he was a conspirator with Russia.
The Russia thing.
I mean, just on and on and on about the things that.
Hey, John, can I ask you a question? John, if I may, forget what was wrong. You know that he is a convicted felon and was found liable of sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. Those are facts. Those aren't allegations.
Those aren't facts. Those were twisted, manipulated, and you know that.
Excuse me.
He couldn't even tell you whether.
They're courts, John. You got to be kidding. They're courts of the United States of America, John. They're courts.
I know.
And tax evasion and cheating is charity. A lot of.
But finish up,
things.
John. Finish up. Go ahead.
No, listen. We're never going to agree on Trump, and believe me, there's so much that he says and does that I don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, I don't. But I'm just looking at the country as a whole. I'm 68 years old. I've lived through a lot, and I just don't understand this anymore. The youth in this country, when you go to a college...
I got it. John, you're all over the place. John, we appreciate your point of view, and please call us again. Thank you very much for your perspective. We appreciate it.
Charlie Kirk was cherry-picking the Bible, as a lot of people do, to prove their point.
Cite that one example you cited Thursday or Friday.
He cited Leviticus, which is the Old Testament, by the way. That is not the post-Jesus Bible, which is the New Testament, which is a lot different than the Old Testament in many ways. But in any case, he talked about Leviticus, talked about those who lie down with another man shall be stoned to death. But he doesn't go on to say that Leviticus also thought if you didn't observe the Sabbath, you should be stoned to death. If you ate the wrong food, you should be stoned to death. So, I think a lot of us are not in church all day long on the Sabbath, and no one's thinking we should be stoned to death. Somehow it's only the gay people that are to be stoned to death, and I call that cherry-picking the Bible. And the other thing I thought that was really tough, if you're a trans kid and you want to have gender-affirming surgery, you want to be able to, or not even gender-affirming surgery, you just want to get puberty blockers so that you don't wind up growing to be 6'4" and 250 pounds. Here's what he said about that. Quote, "We need to have a Nuremberg-style trial for every gender-affirming clinic doctor. We need it immediately." That was from April of 2024. We want to have a Nuremberg-style trial like you had for the Nazis for doctors who want to help children get puberty blockers. I don't know. I think that is taking away parents' rights, children's rights over their own medical care in a way that is pretty frightening. Anyway, 877-301-8097. You are listening to BPR on NEPM. We are broadcasting at youtube.com/GBH News. We'll be right back.
See the heart out of
In Syria, parliamentary elections are about to begin, the first since the fall of former dictator Bashar al-Assad. Questions about fair representation are cause for concern.
Syria's transition is in an extremely dangerous and fragile spot.
Syria's transition to democracy, next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty believes progress happens when people feel secure and exists to help people embrace today and pursue tomorrow. Learn more at libertymutual.com. And the Boston Symphony Orchestra, celebrating 125 years of Symphony Hall. the towering music of Beethoven's Missa Solemnis, Mozart's Jupiter Symphony, and Mahler's Fourth Symphony opens the season. More at bso.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're actually live from NEPM's Star Studio in Springfield. We've been talking about it for weeks. We're finally here. We're thrilled to be here. The team here is spectacular, by the way. Streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. Couple of minutes, former Governor Patrick will join us in the studio. Later in the show, Congressman Jim McGovern. Rick Steves is going to zoom in, the people from Red Fire Farm. We're going to talk about the Big E. And tomorrow, 1 to 2, the Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell in studio in Springfield for Ask the AG. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about the response to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. You can call or text us at 877-301-8970.
Let's go to Virginia from Northampton, I believe.
Hi, Virginia.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, North.
I'm calling.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. Calling to say that I agree with most of what you say. I also want to do some add-ons with the exaggerations of Trump saying there's never been an assassination like this in history. I couldn't believe it because, of course, we had MLK, RFK, and JFK.
Yeah.
And they were actual politicians. But the thing that really is just getting... I did not really know who Charlie Kirk was. I didn't really follow anything of the far right, but I finally listened to some of his rhetoric and his insightful speech, and I have to say... I mean, if ever a man invited a problem in his life, it was him, although I'm sorry it was an assassination. I really am. But he almost literally dared people come after him. The other part... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that was part of his shtick, prove me wrong, and
Yep.
he engaged in these debates back and forth for hours, and of course was asked about trans mass shooters just seconds before he was horribly killed himself. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say also that he just made just horrible statements about Jews, Michelle Obama, Ketanji Jackson, et al., and anybody who was different, he was on. If they weren't white and pseudo-Christian, because I don't believe for 1 minute that man had anything to do with what Christian avowed people are claiming. And you're right, he did go all by the Old Testament things. And also, a lot of people on the right are now I've had people come on to my site and to other sites claiming that it's the left who's doing all this, because Trump is, of course, it's the left who's inciting it. It's the left who's doing all these things. They jump on cars, they protest, and I'm thinking, yeah, but the left don't walk into a building and shoot a bunch of school children generally. They don't generally go and assassinate people in public. I mean, it's usually people that are either A, mentally ill and don't know what they stand for, or B, far-right extremists who take everything Trump and his ilk say.
Yeah, can I say something?
I don't know
can I
about the
just respond
breakdown.
to one thing you're
I
saying?
don't know that's to be
the bottom
so.
line is everybody should tone down the rhetoric. Rather than everybody, including Trump, trying to assess who's more at blame for this, who's more at blame for that. Again, I never even heard of Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, until a week ago. But what he says, it's incumbent on everybody to lower the temperature, have impassioned debates, believe deeply in that which you believe in, but don't cross the line like Trump does every day. I think that has got to be the message in the wake of this assassination. Thank you much for your call. We appreciate it. 877-301-8970 is our number. Can't see.
Jeffrey from Rhode Island, thank you for calling.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Arthur
Thanks.
and Jim?
Yep.
Good.
Good. I'm going to throw something out there which hasn't been said, and that is, I didn't know who Charlie Kirk was until I read about him after the assassination. And my first thoughts about him were, what an awful person he is. And, I don't know that much about the shooter other than, what is the possibility that this kid has a much stronger moral compass than Charlie Kirk does and could not tolerate what he was hearing. It's
hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, he murdered somebody in cold blood. I don't know.
You should have gone to the Utah rally and asked him a really tough question and debated him rather than shoot him. You can't mean what you're saying. It doesn't. There's not a comparative moral compass thing when there's a gun in your hand. It's just words are what you should use. Would you not agree?
Well, unfortunately, I think a lot of young people don't have people to discuss, these kinds of moral dilemmas with. And, when you're alone on your computer and you're gaming and, all the things that we do know about him, what kind of guidance do you have?
Jeffrey, thank you for okay, go ahead. I was just going to say he grew up with two parents in a household that seemed to be. He had apparently a pastor that was a friend of the family. So I think that there did seem to be a certain amount of, if you can use that word, normalcy in his upbringing.
Thanks for the call, though. We appreciate it.
I don't think we have. Well, we might be able to slip in a quick call. We have a little bit less than a minute left, so let's try to slip in. Bob in the car. Thanks for calling, Bob.
Hello, Bob.
Hi, thank you. I'll be very quick.
Please.
I'm not troubled so much by what Charlie Kirk said. I think we ought to draw a line between public servants and private individuals. I thought the flag was lowered in recognition of service to the public by public servants.
Yeah.
And I don't know why private individuals. I mean, I think that would, rather than making a popularity contest, when to raise the flag or lower the flag or fly his body on Air Force Two, I think the better bright line test would be between recognizing someone who is a public servant rather than someone who chose to remain a private individual. That might solve some of the problems here.
Well, it'd be simpler, and you can also honor private individuals. I hadn't thought of that in other ways, so maybe you're on to something. We'll think about that as well. Thank you very much for your call. Okay, we are moving on. We're going to be talking in just a few minutes with Governor Deval Patrick, who is a Western Massachusetts guy now. He lives about 40 minutes from here, but he's been kind enough to come to join us in the Star Studio at NEPM in Springfield. That's where we're going to be all day today and all day long tomorrow, except when we go to the Big E for a big afternoon of eating. We should also say, I don't even know if you said this at the beginning, our whole show today is on NEPM.
That's
today
right.
And tomorrow, 11 to 2, not just 11 to noon. That's right. We are going to be here from 11 until 2 o'clock. So I am Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM from 11 till 2 today. We are live from Springfield, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Quick break. Deval Patrick will join us as soon as we're back. He's Jim Browdy. I'm Marjorie Egan, and this is Boston Public Radio.
Learn something new.
I want to start with how crowds of people can act like fluids.
Yes.
What?
I mean, this is physics, so I love it.
Make a connection.
I have no idea who they voted for. I don't care. This tailgate in particular, everybody's welcome.
Dig a bit deeper.
We're often looking for a small secular liturgy for our lives, and poetry can provide that sometimes.
Stay curious with all things considered from NPR News.
This afternoon at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Massachusetts Maritime Academy, where education meets transformation. Their Learn, Do, Lead philosophy is designed to deliver students prepared for global leadership in careers on land or at sea. Maritime.edu. And Moderna. mNEXSpike, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA by Moderna, is available. Pharmacists can help with any questions about mNEXSpike.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy live from NEPM's Star Studio in Springfield and streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here in Springfield tomorrow, Ask the AG. Andrea Campbell will join us in studio for an hour of Ask the AG. Joined now in the studio by former Governor Deval Patrick, two-term Massachusetts governor, also served as U.S. Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division under President Bill Clinton. He's a business leader and apparently a beekeeper as well. Governor, it's great to see you.
Great to see you both, and welcome to Western Massachusetts.
Well, I know you were very kind to come down and visit us in Springfield, but you're not far, right?
I'm not so far. I'm closer to the New York line, about 45 minutes away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And and it's a farm?
It is we call it that.
Yeah.
We have some growing things. We've got chickens and bees and big vegetable garden, a lot of garlic, and maybe a couple hundred old apple trees and some...
You gave us honey a few months ago. Didn't you give us honey? It's fabulous.
Thank you.
It was
Thank
really
I will
great.
compliment the girls when I go back.
Oh, great. So,
meaning the bees, not the...
I understand
yes.
I understand the connection. Not well, but I do. What's your reaction to the reaction of the murder of Charlie Kirk, Governor?
My reaction to the reaction. Is that what you're asking me?
That is exactly what I asked.
Well, the reaction, of course, has been all over the place from empathy and concern and shock at what this means for this man's very young family and his friends and supporters, which is, I suppose, the part of the spectrum I'm on, to the folks who've tried to draw larger societal and political meaning from it before we know who or more about the perpetrator and his motivations. I will say that I've been concerned for some while about growing political violence, the threats of violence, frankly, the encouragement of extreme behavior by some of the folks in office and running for office. And what I'd like to see, and I hope we have a chance to talk about this more after and act on it more after a period of appropriate grieving, is really to take the occasion to think harder and act, as I say, around moderation.
But a couple of minutes ago, we played for our listeners comparative sound. You had Spencer Cox, who was, as the governor of Utah, saying Americans need to disagree better and has tried to unify people as best.
That's a National Governors Association program, I think, or initiative.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, that's what it's called, disagree better.
And Donald Trump, who doesn't miss an opportunity to blame leftist radicals. This morning I was reading, he was mocking when Paul Pelosi was almost killed. He was mocking the hammer attack on Paul Pelosi. Never miss an opportunity to divide the American people. So he's got the biggest bully pulpit. It's pretty hard to ever get to that disagree better place. Isn't it?
There's so many people who have made the point and made similar points about how careless the president is in his language, both as a candidate and in office. How sensational he is, and he is playing for headlines and attention. That's his shtick, and very much less so around leadership. I remember this president many years ago accusing 5 black boys in Central Park of gang raping a woman and calling for the death penalty, and I think taking out full-page ads
in the New York Times.
In the New York Times. All 5 of whom turned out to have been innocent, but their lives were destroyed. And there are consequences that come from careless language, and I think adults know that, and I wish more and more leaders knew that and called it out and checked their own behavior.
Governor, there's been a lot of reaction to Charlie Kirk's murder, and obviously there's no excuse for anybody, any kind of violence, never mind someone getting shot in the neck as he was, and you mentioned his young family. We had moments of silence at NFL games over the weekend. We had the president order flags to be flown at half-mast all around the country. We did that in Massachusetts. But you read, and I think a lot of us have spent a lot of time this weekend reading up on Charlie Kirk. We weren't that familiar with him before. And he opposed gay rights. He opposed trans rights. He had a formula for what women should be doing, and it wasn't. It was getting married early and having children early. He was ascribed to the replacement theory. He just ascribed to some things that really
that are repugnant and
yes.
are themselves inherently divisive and inconsistent with the American experiment, as I have understood it and hoped for it and worked toward it for most of my life.
So what did it mean? What did it mean that we in Massachusetts joined these other states in lowering our flag to half-mast?
Well,
what does that say?
Well, I think it's still the taking of a life in a political context, or that is that in itself is destructive to the American experiment, right? And even though in so many ways he was advocating ideas that were or could be destructive to the American experiment. And I think, we so much is made partisan now. I think we talked about this once before. I would never have imagined you could politicize a healthcare pandemic. And yet, that's what we did, a healthcare emergency, right? We did that. The president behaves as if he is president of the Republicans and of an extreme wing of the Republicans, and that his objective, and certainly spoken by some of his senior team, is to destroy, and I don't mean just win power, but destroy people who differ from him in opinion or approach. It's cowed folks in public life. It's cowed folks in private life, in business, and at many universities. Look at some of the law firms who capitulated early on. So all of these things are threats to the American experiment. But having said that, and back to Charlie Kirk and his views he's entitled to have. We are entitled to disagree with them, but not violently.
Would you have lowered the flag to half-staff in Massachusetts? Were you governor this week?
I think so. I mean, if that was a call from the president, I'm not, I wouldn't be looking for some opportunity to disagree with the president or frankly be baited into that same old thing that every choice we make is partisan. So there are, I will say there are other political figures who have been subject to violence and to killing. The president hasn't called for the lowering of flags. Good God, excuse me. The lowering of flags for that reason. And I question that. I worry about that. I think I know what some of that is. I also understand that Charlie Kirk was a close personal friend of the president's and a part of his movement. We've blurred so much of what's official and what's personal over the last little years. I feel kind of out of step in that respect. But I acknowledge that there are a lot of people who feel deeply connected to Kirk.
But there are a lot of people, Governor, I know you know this, in this state, people of color, trans people, people who are Muslim, who, to use your word, feel that his rhetoric, while they may mourn his death for his family and for the country, feel it's repugnant. And
it is.
To be in a state where the flag is lowered in honor of him is really, to me, is repugnant as well.
No, I accept that that's your view, Jim. I really do, and the view of many others. But here's, in a way, an example of what I'm talking about. We are going to have to learn to separate or to create, kind of intellectual boxes for a hatred of view and a hatred of violence. And we can decry the violence, we should reject the violence, we should prevent the violence, no matter the view of the person who is subjected to it.
Yeah, just one last.
That's my view, Jim. I'm not.
Oh, I understand. Of course I do. Yeah.
Just one last thing about this. I was reading a lot of discussions, particularly from pastors, about Charlie Kirk, calling him a civil rights leader. You actually did run the Department of Civil Rights when you were at the Department of Justice, talking about his Christian beliefs, and I'm thinking,
oh Lord,
yeah, I'm just thinking this is not. I think when most people think of Christian beliefs, they don't think of demonizing whole segments of people. So,
by the way, I'm sorry. Finish your question.
No, it's just I worry that people get the idea that by lowering the flag and by speaking like this, we're honoring. What are we honoring? I guess that's
I think we are. I hope we are acknowledging. The fact that a political figure assassinated is wrong. And, there were lots of people, I am sure, who differed with the views of Dr. King when he was assassinated, but flags were lowered then. And they should have been. Just back to this notion of whether this is somebody who is espousing Christian views, which is the thing that I almost interrupted you around.
I know.
I have to tell you, as a person of faith, a lot of the folks who are claiming that they're espousing Christian views are reading some other New Testament than I read and read. Jesus Christ would not be calling whole parts of our community, our shared community, demons and rejecting them. There's no evidence in Scripture. In fact, that I think the biggest takeaway from the New Testament is that love of thy neighbor, of thy family, of strangers, of the outcast, of the weak, and not just the mighty, overrides almost everything else, and should really condition the way we make decisions about how we live our lives.
We're talking to former Governor Deval Patrick. We're in Springfield. Governor, you speak about sort of uber partisanship, not your word, but obviously think people should work together more. Your buddy, who called into your final show with us, is Ask the Governor. Barack Obama supported the redistricting effort in California to try to offset what happened in Texas. Was that the right move?
Yes, and it's the right move for other so-called blue states. If we're going to be, if we're going to stand up to the changing of the rules for power play that the president and his party have been up to. I'll tell you what's revealing, if I may. I'm going to go a little bit afield of your question. Maybe 2 points I'd make. One is, it is so apparent to me that the president and his party understand they could not win without cheating. They know that. They can't win by persuading people, enough people, that their policies are the right policies, that their approach is the right approach. And I think that fact ought to be called out. But the second thing is, no matter who, whichever party assumes power or has the majority in our short-term and medium-term focus, a democracy agenda has to be at the top of the list. How do we make it possible and easier and more straightforward, at the same time it's secure, to participate meaningfully in the vote? And the hyper-partisan gerrymandering is just one of the things that has to be fixed. So has the amount of money that affects our policy making and our politics. So has the concentration of power in the leadership of our legislatures, including here in Massachusetts, and the absence of what's called regular order. We have to, and frankly, ways in which the interests of regular people become what is the center of the debate in the halls of power, instead of what is special about this one or that one who can write a big check.
But how do you? Yeah, Marjorie mentioned you used to run the Civil Rights Division. Well, I said too under Clinton. What they're no longer focused on what you were focused on. And
yeah, they're not in the civil rights
not
business
voting
right
rights,
now.
not civil rights, anti-Christian bias, DEI stuff, trans stuff. At the same time, the Supreme Court has essentially become Donald Trump's personal law firm. So I don't think anybody here could disagree with what you just said. How do you effectuate that when the legal enforcement infrastructure is so turned over to one man?
You know, it's funny you say. I'm going to a law school in a few weeks to teach, not to teach, but to speak to students, and I keep asking myself, what do they teach now in law school? Because this whole idea that there is value in precedent, that explaining your reasons for outcomes. Even the judicial philosophy of so-called conservatives, and I think we have to stop calling them that, call them the radicals that they are. This notion of originalism and plain text, all of that's gone. All of it is gone. If the behavior of this supermajority on the court means anything, and so I think in that democracy agenda, and I was slow to come to this, Jim, but it is to your question. I think we do have to have court reform. I think there's nothing constitutional about 9 members on the court. It has fluctuated in number over time. The legislature, the Congress, can impose age limits on members of the Supreme Court, not on their service as federal judges, but on their service as members of the court. And there's some other ideas out there for getting a court system that works. That, as well as some of the rules in the Congress. We keep arguing about the filibuster rule, by the way, which is the reason why Democrats, when in the majority in the Senate, did not pass the voting rights reforms that were in front of them. It was they who said we should not vote an exception to the filibuster rule, because when we are not in power, they will do it to us, which, of course, they happily do.
The Democrats did do it for some judicial a bunch of years ago.
They did for Supreme Court appointees, and I think for other judicial appointees. But understand the filibuster is a rule. It's not in the Constitution, and it was invented to frustrate civil rights legislation. So what an irony that you impose a 60 vote minimum to, once again, and that Democrats do it, to prevent a critical reform of our democracy. So we got a lot of work to do, not just to get really to make the democracy function as it was and can be envisioned.
We're speaking with Governor Deval Patrick. Governor Deval Patrick is a real lawyer. Jim is a sort of lawyer, and he's a lawyer. But you know what surprised me?
I'm not a real lawyer anymore, so be careful with this
you were a lawyer and you practiced law for quite some time. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't. It's been sort of shocking to me, and I can't be the only one who sees ICE violating people's due process all over the place, breaking into people's homes, dragging people out, sending them off to faraway places because they've committed a civil offense and came across the border illegally. Or not. That's right. That they may not even, they may be totally entitled to be here. But, and it seems to me it's the due process. It's the Fifth Amendment about expanding this, 15th Amendment, or is the 14th Amendment that expands this to other people who are not American citizens and all this. So what is the point of the Constitution if everybody can go out and ignore it while we wait for some court case?
It's it's an important rhetorical question. It's an important question in terms of the speed of action. It's also deeply concerning that the president has, in effect, ordered his agencies to go ahead and break the law, by the way, and to ignore decisions of courts that say you are breaking the law and stop. So we're in a really, really dangerous and troubling troubling place. And, there are places in the world where vulnerable citizens or just citizens who disagree with those in charge are hauled away in hoods and sent off to faraway places or in prison, disappeared.
Yeah.
In effect, there are places in the world where the notion of racially or ethnically profiling people is okayed as a law enforcement approach, which means that a whole lot of black and brown and other people are who perfectly lawful are exposed just for being who they are. There are places like that in the world and have been. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined such a place could be the United States of America.
Governor, I'm sorry.
I was just thinking back to the glory days when you were the governor and you used to come into our studio in Dorchester.
I don't remember you treating me like they were the glory days.
Well, but think of what we used to argue about. Flaggers, I mean, flaggers. And now that's such a minor thing, and look where we are now.
Yeah.
Governor, the American people seem to agree, a majority, with your analysis of the mess that Trump, and that's a euphemism if there was one, has visited on the American people. But as you know, the only people I can think of right now who have lower popularity than Donald Trump are Democrats, the Democratic Party. Democrats don't even like Democrats. I'm serious. I mean, the numbers are atrocious. What are they missing?
I'm not sure they're missing anything, but we've had this conversation in different forms over the years, Jim. Starting with what I perceived was true in Massachusetts, and now I believe it is true all over the country. The political dynamic in America is not Democrat-Republican. It's insider-outsider. And most people feel like outsiders. It's not surprising, right? If you live in a non-battleground state, you could easily think that a presidential election has nothing at all to do with you, right? If you live in a so-called blue state, nobody talks to Republicans. If you're a Democrat in a so-called red state, nobody talks to you. I always tease the campaigns come to Massachusetts not for political or votes reasons, but because we're an ATM.
Exactly.
And so it's the whole thing, the whole approach is so broken, so watered down. 77 million people voted for Donald Trump, I think it is. 76 million for Vice President Harris. 90 million eligible voters stayed home.
Yeah.
Before you go, I'm going to eat my way through the Big E this afternoon. That's one of the reasons I'm in Springfield.
You're going to have a ball.
You ever been there?
Oh, yeah.
You have 0% body fat. What can you eat at What can you eat at the Big? I mean, look at you.
You're very
what
kind.
Well, it's also true. What could you eat at the Big E? What have you eaten at the Big E that you'd recommend to Marjorie and me?
There are lots of fried things. Dough is easy.
That's right.
But you don't expect butter to survive fried or ice cream to survive fried. You got to try it. There's a lot of terrific food. You'll certainly go to the Massachusetts Pavilion, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Which is extraordinary. All of the states represented have buildings that are emblematic or of a historic building at home.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
It's really fun.
Yeah,
and go to the livestock. I mean, it's we have a lot more agriculture going on in this part of the Commonwealth than folks from back east realize, and it's pretty interesting.
They had broccoli tempura, Jim.
I'll pass
I
on
saw
that.
that.
Okay, so there's
There you
something
go.
else
Don't you think?
fried.
Yeah.
Yes.
Governor, it's great to see you. Thanks for your time.
Great to see you both.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you very, very much for taking the time to come in. We really appreciate
Good
it.
to be with you. Thank you.
We've been speaking with former Governor Deval Patrick, two-term Democratic governor of Massachusetts. He also served as United States Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division under President Bill Clinton. Thanks again, Governor.
Thank you.
Coming up after the new news, more BPR here on GBH and NEPM. Western Mass listeners, you are stuck with us until 2 o'clock. I hope you enjoy it. But we've got some great stuff to entice you to stay with us. In just a moment, Representative Jim McGovern zooms into the show to discuss the Democratic response to Trump, who campaigned on lowering grocery prices. For one thing, we all know how that's going. I'm Marjorie Egan, Houston Browdy. Listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from NEPM's Star Studio, the beautiful Star Studio, and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Burton's Grill and Bar, serving weekend brunch with dishes like cast iron French toast, chicken and waffles, and short rib hash. A gluten-free menu is available with 8 locations in Greater Boston. burtonsgrill.com. In a remote Siberian coal town, a woman investigates an abandoned mine fire releasing toxic gas into residential homes and pushes back against a government cover-up. Watch POV Black Snow tonight at 10 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Braude, head on Hour 2 of BPR, live from the NEPM studios in Springfield. We start the noon hour with Massachusetts Congressman Jim McGovern on ballooning grocery prices as Trump's tariffs pile up and his proposed constitutional amendment to end big money in politics. Plus, we'll get his thoughts on security in Congress after the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then New England tourism takes a hit as Canadians stay home to protest trade sanctions. PBS European travel guru Rick Steve joins us to talk about that, plus sights and travel tips from his recent trip, a vacation actually, to Italy. All that, plus our beloved Two More Things segment next on the second hour of BPR and GBH and NEPM, live from Springfield.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Officials in Utah are releasing more information about Tyler Robinson. He's the alleged shooter of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Robinson is not talking with investigators, but police say his roommate is helping authorities. NPR's Luke Garrett has the latest.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox tells ABC News Robinson was living with a transgender person.
We can confirm that his roommate was indeed a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female.
Cox says the roommate, along with Robinson's family, are all assisting the authorities in their investigation. But the Utah governor says Robinson himself has not admitted to the assassination.
He's not cooperating, but all the people around him are cooperating, and I think that's very important.
He expects more information to be released Tuesday when the FBI forensic report is filed in court. And top of mind for Cox is learning how Robinson, who he says was a 4.0 student from a close-knit family, ended up in this situation. Cox also criticized social media companies for stoking conflict, and he compared their products to fentanyl. Luke Garrett, NPR News, Washington.
President Trump is suggesting that his administration has reached an agreement with China on the social media app TikTok. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports Trump is expected to speak with Chinese President Xi Jinping later this week.
President Trump posted on social media that a weekend meeting between the United States and China went very well. He wrote a deal was reached on, quote, a certain company that young people in our country very much wanted to save. TikTok is facing a deadline this week to either divest its U.S. business or face a shutdown of the social media app in the country, though Trump was expected to extend the deadline, as he has several times before. Trump said he would be following up with President Xi on Friday. He did not give specifics on the deal, but said that young people will be very happy. Trump has repeatedly credited TikTok with helping him do better with the young vote. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
Well, the U.S. markets are waiting to see whether the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates and by as much as President Trump wants. The Fed holds its latest policymaking meeting tomorrow through Wednesday under heavier scrutiny. Here's NPR's Scott Horsley.
The Fed is widely expected to order its first interest rate cut of the year this week in an effort to shore up the sagging job market. The Senate is set to vote this evening on President Trump's latest pick to serve on the Fed's governing board. If he's confirmed, White House economist and Trump ally Stephen Myron could join the Fed meeting, which begins tomorrow. It's still not clear whether Fed Governor Lisa Cook will take part in the meeting. A federal judge temporarily blocked Trump's effort to remove Cook from the board, but the administration's asking an appeals court to reverse that decision by this afternoon. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Harvard University has quietly ended its undergrad minority recruitment program. The Crimson reports that the shuttering ends a more than 50-year-old tradition that encouraged minority high school students to apply to the Ivy League school. And it came from mounting pressure from the Trump administration to eliminate any consideration of race in admissions. However, a new program called the Harvard Recruitment Ambassador aims to connect prospective applicants with current undergrads. A webpage for the program lists few details as well as no names of undergrad employees. The town of Brookline offering a one-day immigration law clinic at the end of this month. Brookline News reports that the town's Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Relations is offering free half-hour consultations with an immigration attorney on Monday, September 29th from 1 to 5. The consultations are open to anyone who lives, works, or attends school in Brookline and who feels they could use some immigration advice. To make an appointment, you can email brooklineiac@gmail.com. That's brooklineiac@gmail.com. In sports, Red Sox off today, resting up after beating the Yankees yesterday. They host the Athletics at Fenway tomorrow. Monday Night Football, Tampa Bay at Houston at 7. The LA Chargers at Las Vegas at 10. Lots of sunshine today. Temperatures in the upper 60s, low 70s, 74 in Springfield right now, 69 in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Welcome to hour number 2 of BPR on GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy, and Marjorie Egan.
Forgot my last name for a minute.
I did momentarily. I was rattled. We are reporting live here from NEPM Star Studio in Springfield, and we are streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be here again tomorrow from 11 to 2 instead of our usual 11 to noon, 11 to 2. And the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Campbell, is going to join us, and many more surprises. Hello again, Jim.
And by the way, we have to change our plans today. We were originally going to the Big E immediately after the show. I just looked around. It'll probably take us 3 or 4 hours to clean up the studio based on the damage that we have done. So we'll try to get there by dinner.
It really is slob, Jim.
It's horrible. They're never going to get us back.
Terrible.
Joined on Zoom by Congressman Jim McGovern. The Congressman represents the 2nd Congressional District, including much of Franklin, Hampshire, and Worcester counties, as well as small portions of Middlesex and Norfolk. Congressman, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for zooming in.
Well, I'm happy to be with you both.
Yeah, thank you very much, Congressman. So we have been talking for a lot of the show. We talked to our listeners earlier on. We talked to Governor Deval Patrick about the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We've read a lot and heard a lot about what the New York Times called fear and vitriol intensifying in Congress. What's it been like down there?
Well, this is a terrible tragedy. I have great disagreements with Charlie Kirk, but he was a father, he was a husband, and in this country people could have differences of opinion and debate them passionately, but you shouldn't have to worry about being shot for expressing your viewpoints. I think that this is a moment, quite frankly, where the President and Congress should be using rhetoric and should be using words to bring this country together, because these political assassinations are happening on all sides of the political spectrum. And what has been disheartening to me has been that some of my colleagues, and including some of the White House, have used this terrible tragedy as an opportunity to try to further divide the country, to try to demonize people who have a different opinion. And I think that's just terrible. I don't know of a single Democrat in elected office in this country who has said anything other than expressing their outrage over this assassination. And I think I'm glad that that's kind of a consistent theme. But I'm listening to people like Stephen Miller, Laura Loomer, even the president, using language that is very divisive. And again, I think they're trying to use this tragedy as a way to advance, these redistricting plans and to advance kind of a more authoritarian approach to government. And I think, we have to resist that.
This morning on GBH's Morning News, Congressman Moulton, your colleague, was on saying that following a comment he made on CNN about we have to get serious about the real causes of this kind of violence in this country, he got threats. Your colleague from Florida, Moskowitz, said people are scared to death in this building. Are people scared to death in this building? Are people getting threats who are not walking lockstep with the Kirk Trump axis, Congressman?
Yeah, look, we all get threats, and we all have people post things on our social media that could be viewed as threats. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't say what's on our mind and that we shouldn't tell the truth about what the reality is. People, the worst thing that can happen here is that people are afraid to say what they believe. Because they're afraid of what what might come in the aftermath. Look, this is a moment for courage. This is a moment for people to be honest and to not be so political and so divisive. Again, my views. I mean, if you look at some of the things that Charlie Kirk has said over the years, I mean, from my point of view, some of his rhetoric is abhorrent. It's awful. But he has a right to his opinions, even if I think those opinions are wrong, and even if some of his rhetoric is hateful. And I feel that there are some in the White House and surrounding the president who want to use this opportunity to basically suppress the ability of political opposition to be able to express their views, and that's very dangerous. That's very anti-American. Look, we should have a legitimate and a thorough conversation about the internet and about what's online and all that stuff. We also should have an honest conversation about the fact that this country is the easiest place in the world to get a gun, and that has to be part of the discussion. And we should be consistent in our outrage. So we all should be outraged by the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but we all should be outraged by the assassination of the Minnesota Speaker of the House, Melissa Hortman, and her husband. We should be outraged by the fact that we have school shootings happening in this country almost on a daily basis, and we ought to be coming together to figure out ways to change that reality. And I worry that we're moving in a very, very different direction right now. I have one colleague who wants to put together a special committee to basically look into left-wing politicians and left-wing movements in this country. What he's trying to do basically is to shut up any political opposition, and I think that would be a terrible, terrible result.
Who is that, by the way?
Chip Roy
of
Chip
Roy.
Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congressman, let's talk about something that you've dedicated virtually your whole career to, is food and nutrition and healthy, affordable meals and that sort of thing. We speak to Corby Comer every week, and I don't think there's one discussion that does not center on things like cuts in SNAP, in grocery price inflation. How bad are things on the healthy, affordable food front, Congressman?
They're getting worse every single day. I mean, the price of groceries is going up. At the same time that Congress, basically being directed by this president, is cutting food assistance, cutting programs like SNAP, cutting programs that help people put nutritious food on the table. I mean, everything is going up. When I was in Worcester the other day and at the supermarket, and you can literally see people putting things back because things are more expensive, and they know that they can't afford what they used to be able to afford. A lot of this has to do with these crazy tariffs that are thoughtless and mindless. I do an annual farm tour, and I was in Northborough and at one of the farms, and two guys who own a coffee roasting business next door came over to bring me some coffee and told me that we don't grow a lot of coffee in this country. We do in Hawaii, but it's not enough to provide for the entire country. So we get coffee from South America and Latin America and from Africa. And because of these tariffs, the price of coffee is going through the roof. That they're raising their prices. They had to raise their prices by 15%. They're going to have to raise them by another 15%. So we now have this coffee tax and you're going to start seeing, your average cup of coffee skyrocketing. I'm working on legislation with Congressman Ro Khanna basically to repeal the coffee tax. But everything is going up, and I'm hearing it from my constituents. But what makes it particularly troubling is at the same time, Congress is cutting food benefits for people who are in desperate need. And that's just wrong. We live in the richest country in the history of the world. We have 46 million Americans who are hungry and food insecure. We all should be ashamed by that fact. We just passed the National Defense Authorization Act, which I voted against. It's over $1 trillion. The Pentagon has yet to pass an audit, but yet we keep on giving them more money, building more missiles. We had no problem with doing that. But when it comes to helping people put food on the table so that nobody is hungry, all of a sudden we don't have the money to do that, and that's just ridiculous.
Well, Congressman, there's a government shutdown looming, and some in the Democratic Party have talked about not being willing to go along with any kind of funding for the government if things like cuts to Medicaid and to the Obamacare premiums are going to go up, as they will under the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. So do you think that the Democrats should hold out, should make this government funding subject to agreement on such things as that?
Okay, if they want my vote, they're going to have to meet me halfway. I'm not going along to get along. I'm not a cheap date when it comes to my constituents.
That's good.
I'm just telling you. They cut Medicare by $1 trillion. Rural hospitals are going to close. People are going to lose their health care benefits. They get rid of the Affordable Care Act, tax incentive. That means people are going to lose their health care. $200 billion in cuts to SNAP. People are going to lose their food. So, they do this while they pass a big, ugly bill that has tax cuts for multimillionaires and billionaires. So I don't share their values. I just don't share their values. But they control the House. They control the Senate. They control the White House. They're basically in charge. If they want my vote and other Democratic members to vote with them, then we're going to have to get something. But I'm not going along to get along. And they created this mess. I'm willing to help work with them to try to get out of this mess. But I'm just not going to go along to get along. That's just not right. Too many of my constituents are going to get screwed over by what they've done.
Jim McGovern, you mentioned Medicaid cuts, and obviously we talked about SNAP cuts a second ago. I hope you're going to be kind enough not to tell me how naive I am to ask this question, but you can think it. Let's get on the list. Medicaid cuts are not cuts, according to Donald Trump, but at some point, probably sadly after the November election next year, people are going to realize they really were cuts, and a lot of those people are in red states. Same with SNAP benefits. Same, by the way, with the defunding of public media. Many of those small stations that are going to go out of business were the only source of information in red states. How do those Republican members of the House of Representatives, how do they expect to get reelected. I guess they're in safe districts. When the BS rhetoric about there are no cuts here becomes a reality of cuts, even if it's as late as the end of next year. I just don't get it.
Yeah. Well, let me make 2 points. First, even though some of the biggest cuts don't come into play until the end of next year, in anticipation of those cuts, we have a number of rural hospitals all across the country, including a lot of Republican states, closing. Some of the new work requirements and new paperwork requirements of SNAP are going to come into play in the next couple of months, and people are going to lose their benefits sooner rather than later. So that's number one, and they're going to have to explain that. But the other point I'm going to make is, I'm on the Rules Committee, and we had to take the lead to fight against this big, ugly bill on the House floor when it came up. And I had about a half a dozen or more Republicans come up to me during that debate and say, you're right, this is crazy. I mean, I can't believe that they're doing this. I can't believe they're going to cut Medicaid like this. I can't believe they're going after SNAP like this. And they went through a whole list of things. And I asked them when they said that to me while we were on the floor debating, I said, well, I assume you're going to vote against the bill. And they said, no, we're not. I'm voting for the bill. I'm like, why? And they said, because, I'll get a primary and I won't be coming back here. And I said to them, look, in case you haven't noticed, I'm not wearing a collar. I'm not a priest. I don't do confessions. And I certainly don't do absolution. But I'd respect you more. I'd respect you more if you came up to me and you said, I believe in all this crap. I believe in this stuff, and that's why I'm voting for the bill. But to come up to me and tell me that this is wrong and you're going along to get along, that's just unconscionable. At some point, you're either going to lose or you're going to retire. And then you can look back on your career and say, what did I do? And what your answer is going to be is I voted against my conscience repeatedly because I was more worried about not losing my primary. This is insane. This is insane. And so, look, I mean, Trump knows he's got a problem with this big ugly bill because he keeps on renaming it. It's the big beautiful bill and the big workers bill and this. Every day is a new name, but they're tying themselves in knots over this bill because they know it's going to hurt regular people. And the other thing is, that's why Trump keeps on talking about all these other crazy things, is so that people are not looking, at what's happening in their lives. My old boss, Joe Moakley, who you both knew.
Of course we did, yeah.
Used to say, you remember, people look at life through their kitchen window. And they really do. And I think everybody, and life is really difficult for people. But Trump is really good at distraction. Let's not talk about the price of groceries. Let's talk about, trans athletes in sports. Let's talk about, the left-wing conspiracy, all this kind of stuff, getting us to look at everything but what really matters. And again, the challenge for Democrats and the challenge for independents is to make sure people understand what's happening in their lives and why.
We're talking with Representative Jim McGovern. Representative, the Democrats did try. One thing that seems to be having an unusual shelf life, a usually long one, is, of course, the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. And Democrats tried to force release of the files, didn't get anywhere. But what do you think is going to happen here? And do you think this is one thing, as some predict, that could hurt the president's relationship with his base?
Yeah. Look, Trump seems to kind of have this Teflon coating. I mean, I think anybody else who was involved in as many scandals, who was tied to as much corruption as he is, it would be the end of our political careers. But for some reason, his base keeps on turning the other cheek. But having said that, I don't think this is going to go away. We will get the votes. We will get the signatures on the discharge petition to be able to force this bill coming to the floor. The big question is whether the Speaker of the House will try to use some sort of parliamentary maneuver to derail that legislation from coming to the floor. But there will be 218 members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans, that will be on a discharge petition to force a vote on the Thomas Massie row counter bill that basically compels the administration to release all the files. Look, they made this an issue. Trump campaigned on it. All of his base talked about the importance of releasing the Epstein files. The Attorney General said it was on her desk. She was about to release them all. And then all of a sudden, we're not releasing it. So there's got to be a reason why. I'm not into conspiracy theories, but, There has to be a reason why Trump doesn't want this to be made public, and my guess is because his name appears quite a bit in these files. And but at this point, look, people deserve transparency, and we're going to continue to fight to make sure that that is achieved.
You know, on a related note, though, Congressman, Joe Biden, the Democrats could release these files too, and it seems to me what's good for the goose, as they say, if Trump, and I agree with you, he'd be releasing them if he was not worried about how he might appear, or the very few people he cares about, maybe his kids, I don't know. But the flip side is that was Joe Biden protecting Democrats? We read in the 50th anniversary book the other day, former President Clinton referring to the, quote, childlike curiosity of Epstein, which was really chilling to me, even though there are no allegations against Clinton except flying on the plane. Right. Why didn't Biden release the documents?
To be honest with you, I don't recall this being, the main issue of the day. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, died in prison. Apparently took his own life. Ghislaine Maxwell went to jail, and so I mean, I just assumed that that was that. I mean, the justice was being done. There's been a much bigger focus now on releasing the files. I met with the survivors just recently.
Oh, tell us about that, if you would.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was shocking and very compelling, and they just want they want all the truth to be made public. They want people to know the facts. They want full transparency, and they met with not only Democrats, they met with a lot of Republicans, and even Marjorie Taylor Greene, having met with the survivors. I mean, I don't agree with her on very much of anything, but I think she was moved by the power of the testimonies of these survivors. Look, there's really no reason not to release them. Obviously, if you have to protect certain names, and that's something that that can be easily done before they're made totally public. But I mean, but Trump campaigned on this. His base wants them. The survivors are now here talking about the importance of releasing them. So let's release them. I mean, I'm sure that there'll be Democratic names that are in these files that will be embarrassing to some. But so what? I mean, at this point, just release the files.
We're talking to Congressman Jim McGovern.
Congressman, we did not know your daughter, Molly, but we've read a lot about her. She passed away. You lost her back in April, I believe. I'd love to hear a little bit about your daughter. I know she was nearing the end of her college career. Tell us about her.
Well, she was unbelievable. She was the kindest, most generous human being on this planet. She loved everybody. 5 years ago, she was diagnosed with a rare cancer, but she was in a clinical trial based out of New York Presbyterian Hospital in New York City, and her tumors were shrinking. She was a student at Northeastern University. She was going to finish her coursework this past August. She was doing so well, she did a semester abroad in Australia and told me she wanted to move to Australia for a year or two because she loved it so much. And she went to visit a friend of hers who she met in high school, who was an exchange student, and he lived in Assisi, and she had visited him before she went back to see him. I drove her to the airport. This was at the end of April, and she was incredibly excited about going back to Italy to see her friend, and she was texting with Nancy Pelosi about restaurants to go to and places to see. And I talked to her the morning that she passed away, and she was having a great time, and she was just out to dinner and felt nauseous and excused herself and didn't come back out. And they went in to check on her, and she had passed. And so my wife Lisa and I, and my son Patrick went to Italy to bring her home, and it was just so awful. It is the most cruel thing in the world to lose a child. And but going there helped us a little bit because she was in a beautiful place. I had never been to Assisi before, surrounded by people she loved and doing things that she really wanted to do. And but you know, she was the you know, if you were, she always was there with the underdog, always champion, you know, people who, you know, life has been unfair to, was always kind of the friend of the friendless. I mean, just so incredibly beautiful and wonderful and spirited. And, you know, and it's tough because you go between being sad and sometimes angry. Sad because we miss her, and angry because, you know, there are some awful people in the world who are going to live to be 100, and she was 23. You know, and I just I think about her every day, and again, it was unexpected. It was unexpected because she was doing so well. I just will say one thing, that one of the nice kind of honors that she received after she died, President Aoun of Northeastern University invited my family to Northeastern, and we had a private ceremony where he gave us her degree, which she would have earned at the end of August. And she was so proud to go to Northeastern because it's like the it school. It's hard to get into. Yeah. And she struggled in school, and the fact that she was going there and she was going to graduate, she was just really proud of that. And but in any event, so she was incredible. And we are grateful to all the kind words from people, not only throughout my district, throughout the state, throughout the country, throughout the world. And Nancy Pelosi came and spent 2 days with us in Worcester. President Clinton came to her unexpectedly came to her funeral, which I didn't expect. And but you know, I miss her.
I wish you could hear the pride in your own voice there, Jim McGovern, when talking about your Molly. It's really quite beautiful and moving. Well, we're thinking about you, and and her and your family, and we really appreciate your time today, Jim McGovern.
Thanks for being in Western Massachusetts.
We're loving it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great stuff out there. So.
Yeah, we're going to the Big E this afternoon, Congressman. We're very excited.
Congressman, thanks for the call. We really appreciate it.
All the best.
Take care.
Thank you. That was the voice of Congressman Jim McGovern. He represents the Massachusetts 2nd Congressional District, and we much appreciate his taking the time to join us. Coming up after this quick break, PBS European travel guru Rick Steve zooms in on the heels of his own actual European vacation. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from NEPM's beautiful Star Studio and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Yeah.
Learn something new.
I want to start with how crowds of people can act like fluids.
Yes.
What?
I mean, this is physics, so I love it.
Make a connection.
I have no idea who they voted for. I don't care. This tailgate in particular, everybody's welcome.
Dig a bit deeper.
We're often looking for a small secular liturgy for our lives, and poetry can provide that sometimes.
Stay curious with All Things Considered from NPR News.
This afternoon at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you and Addison Gallery of American Art, with 6 new exhibitions this fall, including the work of photographer Tommy Kaw and African-American landscape painters, the Florida Highwaymen. Opening reception Saturday the 20th. AddisonGallery.org. And American Repertory Theater with Passengers, a blend of cirque, music, dance, and superhuman skill. The New York Times writes, extraordinary acrobatics provide gasps of delight. AMRep.org.
GBH and NEPM, Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're live at NEPM Star Studio in Springfield, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. We're back in Springfield here tomorrow. The Attorney General, Andrea Joy Campbell, will join us in studio 1 to 2 to take our questions and yours. Joined on Zoom by Rick Steves, a man who travels often, but I think vacations little. We'll find out. Rick's an author, television and radio host, owner of Rick Steves Europe Tour Group. You can catch Rick Steves Europe weeknights at 7:30 on GBH2 and NEPM TV. And his radio show, Travel with Rick Steves, Saturdays at 6 a.m. on 88.5 NEPM and Sundays at 4 on GBH 89.7 FM. He joins us now on the heels of his fourth trip to Europe this year. He tells us, as we mentioned, it was a vacation trip, even though Margie and I can't quite put our arms around that yet. In any case, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, he will share photos and stories for what he says was an actual vacation. We'll be the judge of that. Monday Night Travel with Rick Steves. More information and to sign up, you simply go to ricksteves.com. Rick, how are you?
I'm great. I'm over jet lag, and I'm filled with good memories from a vacation.
Wow.
Yeah, so I want to know if you could really pull it off, if you didn't have a constant, urge to start taking notes and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's tough. I've got my little black book, in my shirt pocket all the time.
Yes.
I just noticed in all of my photographs from this, I had it looked like a passport sticking out of my shirt pocket and my little yellow mechanical pencil. It's part of my wardrobe, I guess. But this was different for me. I was there with my girlfriend. She had never been to Northern Italy before. We were surrounded by beauty. And I was able to just enjoy my favorite places: Venice, the Italian Riviera, the Cinque Terre, Lake Como, and we did a 1-week hike in the Dolomites. And if you're a travel writer and you want to have a vacation in a country you love, do a dimension of that country or go to a place that you don't cover in your material. And for me, a multi-day hike in the Dolomites is something I just don't do in my guidebook. And consequently, I could just relax and be in the moment for 7 days of glorious hiking in Venice and on the Cinque Terre. I reminded myself I'm coming back next year to do the research. There's no new editions up until then. Just relax. And for me, it was fun because I got to do the time-consuming things that I don't have time to do when I'm researching. And I got to hang out with friends who I've worked with as guides in Venice or on the Cinque Terre, and they're saying, "Who are you? You're just sitting here drinking another glass of wine and relaxing." They've known me for 20 years, and they reminded me, I didn't know there was this dimension of you.
But Rick Steves, you still have a little convincing to do. When Marjorie and I go on vacation, they don't declare on our trip Jim Browdy Day or Marjorie Egan Day.
Very
Didn't
impressive.
You have a Rick Steves Day on this trip somewhere?
Yeah, I extended the vacation an extra couple of days to go up to Lake Como because the mayor of a little town there in Verena wanted to honor me for 20 years of sending Americans to his little village. And how could I turn that down? So everybody had their Rick Steves ambassador to the world sweatshirts on. And,
neat.
I got to be feted, and in a small town in Italy, things are very officious, and there's a lot of old world trappings. So I'd go up to the castle, and we'd sit in the special ancient room, and they'd gather dignitaries from the town, and they'd give me this fancy award. And it's happened to me a couple of times, and it's really fun for me to be recognized for bringing good tourism into a town, because now there's such a concern about bad tourism, and that would be 1,000 people stampeding off of a cruise ship into a town for 3 hours. But my travelers are curious. They're spending the night. They're buying a dinner. They're there to celebrate the culture, and that's very critical for the local economies these days, and they appreciate that. We should always remind ourselves of that when we think about, are we going into a land that is anti-tourism? And I would say there's a distinction: anti-good tourism or anti-bad tourism in their mind. And the good tourism is the tourism that stays overnight, buys dinner, and is interested in the culture.
Well, tell us a little bit, because you always hear these romantic stories about Lake Como, George Clooney out there, and you mentioned...
You've never been to Lake Como, by the way? One of the most beautiful spots on earth.
No, I haven't been anywhere, Jim.
You've been there, Jim?
I have, and Cinque Terre.
Yeah, but tell us about that. And you mentioned there's some place near there that is really honeymoon country, so tell us about that.
Well, it is called Luna de Miele country, honeymoon country. And when you go there, you see why. And we all know the word Bellagio, I think,
Yes.
because of Las Vegas. But there
Yes.
actually is a place called Bellagio. And it's the perfect, fancy ladies walking their poodles behind heavy curtains that keep the sun off of the promenade. And there's all sorts of shops that sell really expensive ties and hats and umbrellas. And that's a old world touristy resort. And, there's that dimension of Lake Como. But you know me, I like the back door.
Yes.
And just a 15-minute boat ride away from Bellagio is a town called Varena. And that's the little town that is my home there. It's kind of interesting because two of my favorite places are the lakes of Italy, north of Milano. I see it as where Italy is welded to the Alps, all of these dramatic lakes. And then the Italian Riviera that has a lot of resorts, but I like to go to the funky little places that are kind of off the grid, and that would be the Cinque Terre. But my favorite town in the Cinque Terre is Vernazza, and my favorite town on Lake Como is Varena. And I see Varena as a freshwater answer to saltwater Vernazza. But to complement Lake Como, and the nice thing about Lake Como, by the way, is it's just an hour away from the big airport in Milano. So you can either start or end your trip with a small town, relaxing bit of Italy. And in the north, you have none of the chaos of Sicily and Napoli and so on. It's a nice, comfortable Italy that is sort of like has a lot of Switzerland mixed into it.
Rick, last couple of times we've talked to you, we asked you a question about how Europeans are treating Americans. We know that the Canadians are really serious about the poor treatment they've gotten from the Trump administration in terms of their dollars and their visits. And I don't know if they're being unkind to Americans as such. How is an American viewed in Europe in the summer of Trump?
Well, if I was Canadian, I would feel much more directly insulted by our government, and betrayed, frankly. So I totally understand the Canadian challenge. The Canadians are so nice and thoughtful and such wonderful people to share a border with, and why on earth we would sort of attack that and have to be win-lose instead of win-win is beyond me. But in Europe, nobody feels directly attacked like that, as far as my experience is. And Europeans have all dealt with similar oddities in their democracy, where all of a sudden they're ruled by somebody that other people kind of go, how could you have elected him? And they empathize with the challenges that we're going through. And I think there's two different things. There's the economic and political, connections with the countries, and then there's the people-to-people connections through tourism. And we're all in this together. And when you travel, we're citizens of the world, and we sit down and we talk and we share a drink and we lick each other's wounds and we encourage each other and we try to straighten out misconceptions. It's a beautiful thing, and I think it's more important than ever these days that we travel, and especially travel to countries, I think, that are friends of ours that are wondering what's going on in our country. I've just been in Europe, as you mentioned, on 4 different trips, and I have found nothing but people that are reaffirming their friendship with American travelers. And really, we are in this together. And Europe needs us. The world needs us. The impact of climate change is more apparent than ever. That the challenges to democracy are more widespread than ever. And the ideals of America still inspire people, regardless of what's going on politically. The ideals of America are bigger than our politics. And I find that fascinating, and I love to get out there and connect with the other 96% of humanity. And whether I'm working or whether I'm on vacation, it's a beautiful dimension of taking a trip outside of our country.
We talked and read a lot about the concerns about the economy in the last handful of months and people putting off large purchases that they would otherwise have done. How is business for you this past summer?
Business for everybody is down 10 or 15 or 20%, something like that.
Wow.
We've got a demand that it just takes us longer to fill up our tours. But, my guidebooks are kind of above the fray, I got to say. Our tour program is very, very popular and very successful. We've got 100 buses on the road today in Europe. And I met several of our groups as I was over there and just having a wonderful time. The big problem for me is the drop of the dollar. My cost of goods sold, my cost of my tours is in euros. And euros cost 10% now more in dollars than they did 6 months ago. So that's taken, I'm taking a huge hit in my profit this year because of the drop of the dollar. But people are still traveling, but it is down. And that's because people are, I think, just not very, well, for me as a businessman, I need stability. I need to be able to plan ahead in order to be bold and to be aggressive in my ambitions as a business. And when you don't have that stability and we don't really know what's going to happen next year, it makes you be much more cautious, and you sort of hunker down. And that's not good for any economy. And my business is not even that tied into the chaotic treatment of tariffs going up and down. But I would hate to be a business person with international trade trying to plan for the future, because how can you plan for the future when things are so unpredictable and so erratic? Thankfully, from a tourism point of view, it's just all systems go for Europe, and the mission that we have, to equip and inspire Americans to venture beyond Orlando is more important than ever.
Rick Steves, you spoke before about impacts of climate change. I wonder what that means in Venice, which, as people know, is basically built on top of the water. What does that mean there?
Yeah, Marjorie, I've traveled in the developing world, and I've seen the impact of climate change on farmers whose whole livelihood is threatened, and that is so tragic and serious. But what I end up doing is going to Europe and finding goofy little impacts of climate change that impact privileged white people on vacation, but it still helps people understand that climate change is real. So when I was in Venice, I was sort of interested in that. I'm on the lowest point from an altitude point of view in Venice is the big square in front of St. Mark's Basilica, Piazza San Marco. And there's these like sewer grates that are centuries old, made out of marble, that are the first places that a flood shows itself. And the water starts to gurgle up in the middle of the square around those sewer caps.
Oh.
And that's the sign that you're going to have yourself a flood in an hour. And pretty soon people in the restaurants on that square listening to Volare and all those kind of songs from the orchestra, they've got their feet propped up on the empty chair next to them as there's 4 inches of water on the square.
Wow.
And but from a photographer's point of view, as that water gurgles up, you put your camera 6 inches off of the marble stones, and you get this amazing reflection in the puddle that makes it look like you're in another world, as you see what Mark Twain called the basilica that looks like a warty bug taking a walk, Basilica of St. Mark's, in the reflection. But I learned this time that gondoliers have had to take the ornaments off of the bow so they can get under the bridges. If you look at the gondolas in Venice now, they don't have their ornaments on the bow. You see flamingos. The Venetians are saying they've got flamingos coming in from Africa. They never had African birds in Venice. The clams that we find in our spaghetti, the spaghetti alla vongole, they're no longer fished out of the Adriatic. They're imported from the Philippines.
Wow.
There's so much going on in the way of things changing. Even in the Dolomites, they've got all the lakes are really rich green now because there's these different algae or whatever.
Cyanobacteria.
Yeah, and of course, you don't see any snow in the mountains or anything like that. So there's a lot going on, even from a tourism point of view, on climate change. And it's, to think that half of America is just saying drill, baby, drill, and focusing on making their decisions on their quarterly profit statement with no regard to sustainability in the future is even more heartbreaking when you travel and you realize how it impacts people all around this planet. It's one of the benefits and the beauties of travel in a thoughtful way.
You know what I also wondered about? You mentioned this crisis of artisans, lace makers, glass blowers, gondola makers, etc.
Yeah.
What's that about? What is the crisis?
Well, younger generations don't really want to do what their dads did. You know, for all through the centuries, people have, been inspired to do the traditional crafts. And that takes patience, and that takes humility, and that takes a kind of an embrace of the traditions. And, if a family in the Italian Riviera, generally, historically, the kids would inherit the vineyards. And the people who inherited the vineyards would work those fields and grow grapes and make nice wine. Now, so many of the vineyards are just untended. They're just gone to wild because the younger generation doesn't want to do the hard work. I can't say I would want to do the hard work either. But when you go to Venice, you go out to Burano, the island that's famous for the lace making. Nobody's making lace anymore. Wow. You go to the Murano, the island that's famous for the glass blowers. Yeah. And it's hard for the glass blowing industry to carry on because this old fashioned approach to quality and apprenticing, it takes time. It takes people being satisfied with this, what is seen as a humble job, maybe if you're some sort of a hotshot. People dedicating their life to gold leaf artisans. They're dying out. Mask makers are dying out in Venice. Loom workers are dying out. They no longer make the Venetian floors, these wonderful floors that are like linoleum, centuries old, made out of crushed marble that flexes with the foundations as the city settles. So you see in an old palace, the floor has these gentle waves in it, and that's because historically they made this pavimento veneziano. Well, almost nobody knows how to make that anymore. So it occurred to me on my trip to Venice that you see this universal crisis of artisans, the next generation not doing these roles, and these beautiful, beautiful dimensions of European historic culture are at risk of dying out. And as tourists, when we buy the glass, if we buy the local made glass instead of the stuff imported from China, we are supporting a craft that I believe is worth supporting. And I love it in Europe when governments do recognize that and they subsidize and fund the traditions. You find that all over Europe, that governments have the wherewithal to take care of their environment and to fund the traditional lifestyles and to recognize it. That's why more people in Europe are speaking the little languages that until a generation ago were dying out than ever before. I mean, they've ticked up. Not than ever before, but the fact is they are gaining in usage now instead of that continuing that trajectory of dying out. So it's fun to see the dynamics in Europe as it deals with the challenges presented in this fascinating time that we get to travel in.
Hey, Rick, looking in the future for a second, you finished this 4 big city series for PBS, right? London, Paris, Rome, Istanbul. What's the status of that?
Oh, I'm so excited about this, Jim, because these are the 4 big cities in Europe. We have 40 itineraries at Rick Steves Europe for our bus tours, and 4 of them are dedicated to one city. And in our estimate, there are 4 cities that deserve a 1-week trip, and that's why we include a 1-week itinerary for each of these: London, Paris, Rome, and Istanbul. And I thought what I would love to do is break out of my half-hour routine. We've done 150 episodes on GBH and so on over the years, cutting Europe into 150 half-hour episodes. And London, Paris, Rome, and Istanbul have always been sort of disjointed because I had to do several half hours, and I really wanted to do one entire hour to say, this is London, this is Istanbul, this is Rome. So that's been my big initiative this year. It's been a lot of work. And next year, we're going to be able to share a whole new 4-hour miniseries hitting my favorite big cities in Europe. Just today, I've got my producer said I need to record the scratch track for our 1-hour London show, and I can hardly wait to get into it. We just finished our Istanbul show, so that's something to look forward to on public television in the Boston area for sure.
Well, also you look forward to your next vacation, which you'll be taking in another decade or so. So So, Rick Steves, before you go, we mentioned at the top of saying hello to you today, but a lot of people may not be familiar with it. Remind people what these Monday night travel things are that you do at ricksteves.com.
One tonight.
Yeah, tonight.
Yeah, when COVID hit, we all wanted to keep traveling, but we couldn't travel. So I just sort of did a funny thing. I'll compete with Monday Night Football, okay? So we made Monday Night Travel, and it was a huge hit right out of the starting gate. We had several thousand people logging onto this web online party. And we've had over 200 Mondays now where every Monday night it's free. People just go to ricksteves.com. On the homepage it says how to log on, and you get your little entry clicker or your link. And I used to do them every Monday, but now my staff runs with it. But I do about one Monday a month. And I love to come home from a trip, especially a vacation, and share what's going on. So the fact is, every Monday night, we've got a wonderful, entertaining, easygoing chance to pour a drink together and go traveling. And tonight will just be one that I'm very excited about because I get to share all the things we've been talking about in the last few minutes with photographs. So if anybody's interested, it's totally free. Just go to ricksteves.com and sign up, and we'll see you at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 6 o'clock here in Seattle, and we'll travel together. It's Monday Night Travel.
Welcome home. It's great to see you, Rick. Be well. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Rick.
Great to see you and hear and talk to both of you guys.
Great
Happy
to
travels.
talk to you,
See
too. We've been speaking with Rick Steves, owner of Rick Steves Europe.
How'd you
tour
like
group.
the vacation with him, by the way?
I know.
Shelley is one lucky woman.
It tells you everything to do. That's what I need. Someone to tell me everything to do. Where to go, what to wear, turn left.
I don't think he's going to tell you what to wear, but go ahead.
Anyway, you can catch Rick. Well, if you're hiking, Jim, the kind of boots and all that. Okay, you can catch Rick Steves Europe weeknights at 7:30 on GBH2 and NEPM TV, and his radio show, Travel with Rick Steves, which is so much fun. Saturdays at 6 a.m. on 88.5 NEPM, and Sundays at 4 p.m. on GBH 89.7 FM. And one more time, he's hosting a free webinar tonight at ricksteves.com as part of his aforementioned Monday Night Travel series. They're wonderful. Tonight's webinar is all focused on his recent vacation romp. Coming up after this quick break, in case you missed it, that's right, it was a romp. It was a romp. We're not in Brighton, we're in Springfield, and we've got two more things to say about it. That's next. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from NEPM Star Studio and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
The ball is rolling on Boston's new professional women's soccer team, Boston Legacy FC, and a lot of work is being put in to build this team from the ground up and kick things off right. But it's a lot of pressure.
Players who come here in this first year will get to help shape the culture of this club and get to help the community and the fans learn what it's all about and build that up, I think is a really unique opportunity.
I'm Esteban Bustillos. That story later today on GBH's All Things Considered.
Support for our programs comes from you. And MIT Federal Credit Union, offering a variety of certificate options to help members build emergency funds, plan for retirement, or save for the future. Learn more at mitfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing coverage plans for individuals, families, employers, and retirees with benefits that help you live in your moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder. We're live from NEPM Star Studio in Springfield, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here tomorrow as well, 1 to 2. The AG will join us, Attorney General, live for Ask the AG. And rather than two more things, which we usually do at this time, we thought we'd do one more thing because this is such an unusual moment for us. Marjorie, we're in Springfield. And we should say we're not well, we'll sort of complain. We go nowhere. We don't get sent anywhere. Our colleagues get sent all over the world.
Not going to Lake Como.
We go nowhere. Mm-hmm. We are in Springfield, and I have to say we've only been here like 20 hours. I'm sort of loving it.
Yeah, well, we went to a great place last night, the Student Prince, for dinner. It was wonderful. Oh, this German shoot, it was wonderful. That's where you had the kangaroo sausages, whatever you had. But you know what I
Marjorie
love?
did not try it, by the way.
I didn't. No, I don't want to
which
eat
is really
kangaroo
rather
sausage.
sad.
But you know what was great?
No.
That we're going down the main drag here, and you saw all these beautiful buildings. I mean, Symphony Hall obviously is gorgeous, but all these buildings that they didn't tear down here. So many places urban renewal came in and wiped out these buildings. You know how we just built all these boxes in Boston, the seaport? It's so ugly down there. These beautiful buildings with beautiful relief, beautiful architecture. It's just gorgeous.
Well, that sort of reminds me. I think I have an obligation to apologize for something I said a few years ago.
What?
I was on our show, and I made a comment about having been to Springfield a few years prior, and unfortunately the people here at NEPM picked up on this and played it. So let me play it, and then I'll try to apologize for it. Here's me a few years ago talking about a trip to the Pioneer Valley. Here it is. I was there many years ago for the Democratic State Convention. I was covering it for NECN. And I have to say, and I want to say this as carefully as I can, when I went out at night after the convention recess that day, many people think the best strip clubs in the Eastern... No, really. Now, by the way, we made a lot... I just want to be clear, because I want to get over that hump that has been...
Is that where you went last night?
We have
couldn't find
no
you?
plans to go to any strip clubs this time.
Where were you last
here.
night? 11 o'clock. We were all looking for you.
I think that is probably something we should leave between us. Or not between us. In any case, we're loving it here. By the way, the people at NEPM are spectacular. The city has been a great time for us. We thank everybody. We're
It's
thrilled.
a great New England city.
It is indeed.
Okay, coming up after the 1 o'clock news, Sarah and Ryan Voiland run Red Fire Farm in Granby. They join us in the Star Studio at NEPM to talk about running a working farm in 2025, suing the Trump administration to get their grants restored, and more. I am Marjorie Egan. He is Jim Browdy. We didn't know where he was again last night. We couldn't reach him. I don't know.
My phone died.
That's what they all say, Jim.
I've
You're listening to
said it before.
BPR and GBH and NEPM live from beautiful Springfield and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Red Fire Farm up next.
Join GBH at our Brighton studios for Stories from the Stage. You'll hear entertaining, inspirational stories while you enjoy drinks with friends. Join our studio audience at one of our upcoming shows. Tickets and more info at gbh.org/events.
Support for GBH comes from you and GM Roth Design Remodeling. Dreams delivered. With custom kitchens, bathrooms, and additions. Serving New England for over 39 years. Learn more at gmroth.com. And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Salem's only collection of authentic objects from the 1692 Salem witch trials. Now on view. For tickets, you can visit pem.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 3 of BPR live from the NEPM studios in Springfield. We'll start with some local Western Massachusetts farming and Sarah and Ryan Voiland of Red Fire Farm in Granby to discuss what it's like to run a working farm in 2025 and their litigation against the Trump administration to unfreeze federal grant money.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then, since Jim Hot Dog Boy Browdy is all pumped up to Big E
As
at
if
the
she
big...
isn't.
That's right. Yeah, he's going to Big E at the Big E later today. We are opening the phone and text lines to talk all things fall fairgrounds. From the Big E to Topsfield to that ghastly King Richard's Fair. What's the food situation that brings you out? Fairs and you. Call or text next on the third hour of BPR and GBH and NEPM live from Springfield.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Vice President J.D. Vance is hosting Charlie Kirk's radio show today in tribute to his close friend.
I wanted to use this show today to advocate for Charlie, to talk about him, to talk about what kind of a guy he was, to talk about what kind of a man he was, what kind of a husband and father he was, and to take people, most of them from inside the administration, but some of them from without, who knew Charlie best, and to talk about what he meant to them, what he meant to this administration, and what he meant to the conservative movement.
Turning Point USA is expected to host a memorial service for its slain co-founder this Friday at State Farm Stadium in Arizona. The conservative activist was gunned down last week at an outdoor rally on the campus of Utah Valley University. Governor Spencer Cox says the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, is not cooperating with investigators who've been trying to determine motive. Yesterday, Cox said authorities believe the 22-year-old has left-leaning beliefs and did not like Kirk. He also raised details about Robinson's roommate and romantic partner as a man who is transitioning to a woman. It is unknown whether transgender politics had any correlation to Kirk's assassination. President Trump is expected to leave for the UK tomorrow for a second state visit. NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben reports British leadership is attempting to influence Trump on foreign policy.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer delivered the invite from King Charles in February, saying that this would be an unprecedented second state visit for a U.S. president. The rare honor has a purpose, says Evie Aspinall, director of the British foreign policy group think tank, to nudge Trump in the UK's direction, particularly on assisting Ukraine.
It seems almost crude, but it's almost exactly that. The UK knows that kind of its leverage and its soft power when it comes to Trump comes through the royal family, who has a long affiliation and a kind of affinity to the royal family.
President Trump has been talking about new sanctions on Russia over the weekend, saying he would take action only if fellow NATO countries stop buying energy from Russia altogether. Danielle Kurtzleben, NPR News.
The Ohio Valley and Northeast are very dry right now based on the latest data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Here's NPR's Rebecca Hersher.
Very little rain fell in the Ohio Valley region in August, according to the new data. It was the driest August on record, going back more than 130 years. And it was the second driest August ever recorded for the Northeast. Ohio, Kentucky, and Vermont all broke records for the least rainfall ever in August, a month that's usually quite rainy in the eastern U.S. Much of the country is now experiencing drought conditions. The most severe drought is in the western U.S., particularly Arizona, New Mexico, and the Rocky Mountain states. Climate change makes extreme droughts more likely around the world. Rebecca Hersher, NPR News.
You're listening to NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Some of the country's top transportation leaders are gathering in Boston this week to discuss the biggest challenges facing transit networks across the U.S. The Transform Conference runs through Wednesday at the Menino Convention and Exhibition Center. GBH's Jeremy Siegel has details.
T General Manager Phil Ng and State Transportation Secretary Monica Tibbetts-Nutt are among the local officials speaking at the conference. They'll be discussing transportation megaprojects, federal funding concerns, and ways to make public transit more eco-friendly. One panel that'll put the T at center stage is an exploration of how the agency has improved its safety standards after federal investigators launched a probe of the MBTA back in 2022. Jeremy Siegel, GBH News.
Big weekend in Springfield this past weekend. Got the big E, and Massachusetts State Treasurer Deb Goldberg announced this weekend that she's running for re-election in 2026. Goldberg made the announcement from the stage of the Democratic Convention in Springfield on Saturday. Inquiring minds were wondering if she would seek another term, especially after a tumultuous and expensive 2-year battle with Shannon O'Brien, who Goldberg attempted to fire from her role as Cannabis Control Commissioner. Meanwhile, Congressman Seth Moulton keeping the door open to another possible statewide run. More than 100 people attended what ended up being a standing room only breakfast that he hosted with Mass Dems, Veterans and Military Outreach Subcommittee at the Springfield Democratic Convention. His comment, "I'm not thinking about it." 77 degrees in Springfield at the Dr. Seuss Sculpture Garden. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses from retailers to tradespeople. Progressive covers a variety of business needs with a range of coverages. More at progressivecommercial.com.
Welcome to hour number 3 of BPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are live from the NEPM studio, the Star Studio in Springfield, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. If you've not been looking online or streaming, you might want to look now because we have got this incredible array of vegetables. It's like a cornucopia. Well, it is a cornucopia, I guess. Is this a cornucopia? Not really the right shape, is it, for a cornucopia?
We can call it a cornucopia.
Well, it's stuffed with the most gorgeous vegetables you've ever seen, because we are speaking with the people from Red Fire Farm. But I want to mention tomorrow we're going to be back here again from 11 to 2 again. We're going to be joined by the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Campbell. Hello again, Jim.
Let me tell you something. How humiliated are you? They're going to Big eat flatliner hot dogs.
I know.
When we're in the presence of these people. As I eat a Huss cherry. Did you eat one of those?
I never had one of those
One
before.
of the most incredible things.
That is
in any
gorgeous.
case, we're joined now by Ryan and Sarah Voiland, co-owners of Red Fire Farm in Granby and Montague. For you Eastern Massachusetts listeners, those are two towns in the part of the state where the dragons are. Earlier this year, Red Fire Farm joined a lawsuit with a number of other farmers against the Trump administration because it's not just higher ed and foreign aid. He froze funds to the people who provide us with food, farmers too. Also talk with Ryan and Sarah about that and all that goes into running a local farm in 2025. Ryan and Sarah, it's great to meet you. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for bringing all this
us.
beautiful array of vegetables. So, Sarah, let's start with you. Tell us about what is your farm? What is Red Fire Farm?
Well, it's a place in Granby, Massachusetts, where we grow.
I can't
Sarah's
hear Sarah.
microphone
Can everybody
working?
hear Sarah?
Let's see if the volume.
Okay, they can hear you, so go ahead. We're
Okay.
good.
We grow
Oh,
all
there you
kinds of certified organic produce, from winter greens in the wintertime to this time of year when we have this peak season of everything that you can ever want to eat in Massachusetts, like tomatoes of almost 100 varieties, lettuces,
Champion
bok choy,
tomatoes.
corn.
Champion tomatoes, I read.
Yes, true. Yes, we got first place in the state for our brandy wines and second place for the purple zebras. So.
Congratulations.
Now, before we move on and Ryan expands on what the farm is about and what you brought, this is probably slightly off topic. Is it true that you met him on singlevegetarian.com?
Yeah, vegetarian singles, and I don't even know if it still exists, honestly, but
Was that a true story?
We were vegetarian at the time. It seemed like a good place to go.
So it is true.
It's true, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still a vegetarian.
You are, but you're not a vegetarian single anymore.
No,
so.
no.
Okay, so we verified that.
We skipped over the first place tomatoes in the whole state. That's a big deal.
Well, Ryan, tell us that. Then we'll get to this. Tell us about your tomato victory, your double tomato victory.
Yeah, well, the state of Massachusetts, the Department of Agriculture sponsors a tomato contest every year. It's held somewhere near Boston or in Boston, I think. And they have celebrity chefs and food writers and people in the know come and judge all the tomato entries that commercial tomato growers from around Massachusetts are all invited to submit their best tomatoes each year. This usually happens right at towards the end of August. Yeah. So a couple weeks ago now. So yeah, I went out to the plants and found the perfect tomatoes, and we grow a lot of tomatoes, so it's a pretty big job to sort of sort through
you have
all the
bunches,
different
all these different varieties,
plants.
right?
Yeah, a lot of different varieties and a lot of different acres of them. So, but the thing with the contest is you want 5 tomatoes that are perfect matches, exactly the same size, cosmetically perfect, and you also want ones that taste amazing because they go not only by the looks, but also these judges slice them up and actually try them.
So
and you
what
came in
makes
first and second, right?
Yes, yeah, we got
second.
first and second in the heirloom category.
So what makes a perfect tomato? And how do you make? Is it the soil or is it the sun or?
I think it's a combination of all those things. You want the soil really healthy, lots of organic matter. You want to have the plant getting the right amount of water, not too much water, because that can water out the flavor on tomatoes sometimes. So, but enough water so that the plant's not wilting. The variety makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Do we have a semi-perfect tomato there that I can take home? I'm really big into tomatoes.
We're gonna let you take a bunch of these home.
We're very excited.
Brandy
very
wine.
excited.
This pink type is the one that won. The brandy wine
this
is
tomato right here.
is renowned for.
You can tell it's a winner by looking at
it. Built for travel. They're
very
very delicate,
fragile.
And so harvesting them at their ripe stage when they have the most flavor, it's really a local food.
How many varieties of tomatoes do you grow?
Usually over about 100 each year.
Can you imagine
There's
that?
certain varieties we grow in the greenhouses, others that we grow outside. We have a whole range of cherry tomatoes. That represents 30 varieties right there.
So really, we're pretty into tomatoes.
Before we go ahead with this, we have some very good news. Our staff, which is as good as the staff gets, did some research. They were deeply troubled when you mentioned a minute ago that the vegetarian singles may no longer exist. We have some very, very good news. This is very good news. Write this down. Greensingles.com exists.
That's
not
real.
for you
Okay,
two.
okay.
Veggydate.org and veggieconnection.com for all of you who are hoping to be as lucky as these two are. You guys have had a really, it appears to me as an outsider, a pretty rough go the last couple of years. There was a fire, yes?
Yep.
How long ago was that?
February 2024.
How destructive was that?
It took out our entire Granby farm store and major storage barn.
Oh,
so this was
completely.
a 6,000 square foot barn. It was built 100 years ago out of chestnuts. Some of the last chestnuts that existed.
Out of chestnuts?
Yeah, the chestnut trees.
Okay.
Made the beams that this barn. So this just gorgeous, beautiful, historic barn. And we'd converted it since I bought it in 2001. Over the 20 some years that we've been farming there, we converted it from being a traditional sort of New England livestock mixed farm type barn to being a barn that was we converted it into a farm store essentially. So this was the main face of our farm, and we added a display greenhouse on the front and done a lot of renovations inside to make it nice for displaying produce and selling produce and hosting our CSA distribution and that type of thing. So
when you wake up the next morning and something horrible like that has happened, how do you decide? What's the thought process the two of you went through when you decide what you're going to do, if you can do? How do you deal with that kind of catastrophe, Ron?
It really is one of the most heartbreaking things that we've ever encountered in our careers as farmers. I mean, we've been through some other difficult weather and crop losses and things, but to lose the infrastructure that enables our work is really tough. And
all the work that Ryan and his dad put in, we were 45 minutes away when we heard about the fire.
Oh, no.
Drove there as fast as we could. It was fully aflame when we heard, and then we got there, it was 2/3 gone, and his dad was there with him across the street who had been working on it for, 20 years.
That's heartbreaking.
I'm almost crying now just thinking about it.
Did they have volunteer fire department or a regular fire department near where you are?
There's a paid fire department, barely. It's a small town.
Yeah, so it's a small town with a small number.
This fire was so big that not only was the Granby Fire Department there, almost every town in the vicinity, there were probably 8 fire departments on the scene.
Good.
They closed the roads in all 3 directions because the flames were so hot, nobody could drive by, and they needed to get the fire trucks in and stuff.
Do people wrap their arms around you when that happens? And I mean, your neighbors and people who are dependent upon what you produce, is there a coming together kind of deal? Are you hesitating because there wasn't? Or
no, and I mean, I think that we were almost at the end there, but it was really all the people who called, who wrote letters, who sent in donations, after that fire, that made it feel like we could actually try to figure out how to keep farming after such a loss.
I've said this story before, but a friend of mine ran Farm Aid for Willie Nelson for decades.
Who's still doing it?
No, she actually retired. No, they are.
Willie
and next
Nelson,
week is Minnesota.
Yeah.
For those who were planning on going to Farm Aid, the University of Minnesota custodial workers were on strike. They thought they might have to cancel it. They settled Friday night, so it'll happen next Saturday. And I went one. I've gone a number of times, but recently, before he performed, Neil Young did what he always does, is lectures the audience. And I don't mean that in a loving way, and screams at people and says, if you buy one piece of fruit or vegetable from anybody except a family farm, you should be ashamed of yourselves. You should rot in hell or whatever, wherever it is. So
a little heavy.
What level of dedication is there do people get that? Do people get how important these places like yours are to them and their community? Do they get that Neil Young message?
I think that there are a lot of people who do, and those are the folks that we were hearing from. And, we care so much, obviously,
That's
about
pretty
growing
obvious.
really good food and like the kind of food that we want to feed our families, and having a year-round supply of a lot of diversity. But it's not necessarily something that we know for sure that other people care about as much.
Yeah.
Until you hear back.
What about farm shares?
We do farm shares. Yeah.
I mean, tell people about those who may not know.
I actually found my way to agriculture by being a CSA member, and experiencing fresh food from the farm for the first time and seeing tomatoes that weren't red, and all of that, and then I started a small farm to help grow CSA, and I think it's one of the best ways to get food because you're getting it harvested specifically for you, very fresh, right before your pickups, and you're able to support the farmer in like the changes in each season that we have. Like some years, certain things grow really well and other things don't do as well. So maybe we're having a lot of awesome potatoes in 2024, and maybe our potatoes aren't so pretty in 2025, like happened with the drought.
Our early potatoes are not so good this year, but our later potatoes are looking very nice.
But the tomatoes have been amazing. So.
Those are the voices of Ryan and Sarah Voiland from a Red Fire Farm in Granby and Montague. We should have asked you, what's the website if people want to learn more? We're not done with you, but what's the website?
Redfirefarm.com.
Okay. So we talked about the nightmare of the fire. The nightmares didn't end for you guys. Donald Trump's elected. You had some grants in the making that you'll tell us in a minute what you intended to do with that those federal funds. And as we actually discussed the cancellation of some of these grants to farmers right after they happened. Ryan, what happened? What were you expecting, and then what happened?
Yeah, so in the aftermath of the fire, well, even before the fire, we were in process of applying for a grant. The grant that got, or that's, I don't know, canceled or frozen still, that has impacted us most is a REAP grant, which is a renewable energy grant.
Is that the solar thing?
So we were going to use it for putting solar panels. Originally, the solar panels were going to be on the barn of the barn, burned on the farm store there. And then when the fire happened, we had to change our application and come up with a new plan to build solar panels in the space where the barn used to be. That would still make the energy, but obviously the roof wasn't there anymore, so we had to kind of reconfigure the plan. So this all became part of our plan for redeveloping the space and re-establishing the infrastructure that we need in order to run the farm.
Park our tractors, put equipment.
Yeah, keep.
So you're plaintiffs. You were plaintiffs, or are plaintiffs in a lawsuit.
Yeah. So
we
had this in with the federal government, and it was approved in January before the administrations changed, and they said, we're going to grant you $125,000 to go towards this project of building a 60 kW solar array in the space. So we were using that as part of our plans for how we would redevelop our space and get back in business in terms of having the infrastructure we need to keep farming in Granby. And then when the administrations changed, actually we didn't even hear it first, but we've had some smaller grants with the NRCS, a different wing of the USDA that had also become frozen. We heard about those first, and then we inquired, so what's going on with our REAP grant? Is this still, we've got this paperwork here that says it's approved and that we're going to get be able to do this project. And then we inquired with the administrators of the grant, and they tell us, well, actually it's frozen and we can't tell you any other information. And so we were like, well, gosh, we're talking to contractors, we're trying to make this come together and get this building done. And they're just like, don't do anything. It's frozen.
And is the litigation still pending?
So so we, in response to that, we were like, this is ridiculous. We have paperwork here that says we've got this grant, and now they're telling us we don't, or that we're not going to get the money. So we had the opportunity to join a lawsuit with Earth Justice, which is a group of lawyers based in D.C., I think. And they were like, there's a whole bunch of farms around the country in a similar situation that had REAP grants or other grants from the USDA for renewable energy projects in particular. And all these grants have been frozen. So we're going to get a handful of these farms and do a lawsuit to try to force the administration to release the funds that they'd already, the government had already said they were going to do for us.
From what I read, too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because electricity costs are going up, this would have been a way to use solar to get your electricity costs down. And the temperature control is a huge thing, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's a total win-win. Solar makes so much, especially when you're putting it on a roof, where it's, otherwise just a wasted resource. But farms use a lot of energy, especially a produce farm, because we have to have climate-controlled coolers and storage chambers in order to keep the produce in good condition after we harvest it. And so that's the biggest thing. And also we have some greenhouses that have fans and blowers and things that help control the climate. So all these things use a fair amount of electrical energy. So it makes all the sense in the world if we can gather and make the electricity on the farm from the sun rather than have to pay ever escalating prices to buy energy from the grid that might not even be from sustainable
Can I ask
sources.
you the exact same question I asked you in a different context? So you had the fire, you had these grants frozen, you also had some workers snatched by ICE. What do you do to pump each other up? And I'm serious. I mean, how do you deal with the
very stressful
I'm serious. The psychological difficulty of trying to run something that's so important to people with so many obstacles not of your making, What do you do? I'm serious. I think it'd be useful for
We're
other
still working
people.
on it. I mean, it is a, I'd say our jobs are pretty darn stressful. Given
very
all these
stressful.
sort of
How do you deal with the
factors.
stress?
And, you just try to live your life. I try to go running at least once a week to get some energy out and try to just stay focused, make a list and get the stuff done.
And then the climate changes too. These torrential rains that we get so many times now. It's not that regular rain. It's not that pouring rain, which is upsetting.
So do me a favor. This is really hard. For people who are not on YouTube, and I pity you right now, this is the most beautiful spread.
It's gorgeous.
Do you want to, Sarah, can you spend like a second and do just do an overview of these incredibly beautiful things that are here?
Sure. I mean, right now, all of this is in season. It's from our farm. And this is a chocolate stripes tomato.
Gorgeous.
This is a buttercup squash. We've got cherry tomatoes here. Hot streaks tomato. Harvest moon. You were talking about Neil Young right there. Brandywines. These are Asian pears.
Love Asian
apples. Another kind of European pear.
Like Cox orange pippin in there.
Fresh
That's
garlic. This is
special
hard-neck garlic.
Oh.
It's super easy to break the cloves open, and it's really flavorful. Acorn squash, sweet potatoes, dark bell watermelon. They look kind of like a football.
We got a new
and
variety.
They're red inside.
Sweet potato this year. These are deep purple inside. This is a new
Wow.
thing.
They're
We
so
cooked some up
dark
the other
purple.
day, and they're really
Do they
tasty.
taste different?
They tasted good. I mean, they were nice and sweet, like a sweet potato should be.
Okay.
And the color was really something
And that's going to be
different.
good for your body too, I think.
Yeah.
Then
You look very healthy, I might remark. Yeah, you
Thank
both.
you.
Don't they look healthy, Jim?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Peppers.
look what they're comparing it to. So, I mean, come on. Go
we
ahead.
got fresh ginger.
Look at that.
This
Look
is,
at
this
that.
is baby ginger. So this is what it looks like when
Oh
it's
my
growing.
God.
Actually, the whole plant.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Let's see.
Everything is beautiful.
This is white corn. Eden is the variety.
You can
Nice white
yeah.
ears. Beautiful
Oh,
white
look at
kernels
that.
This is like
inside.
almost
Look
the
at
end of
that.
corn now,
Look
but
at
it's
It's
that.
the
so
very
pretty.
end of the corn season.
And all that carrots over there.
We got some carrots.
What's that?
This is bok choy.
Bok choy.
Sometimes called pak choy.
Look at the lettuce.
There's some lettuces. Little.
This is the most.
Well, it's just gorgeous. I mean, it's just gorgeous.
These are ghost peppers. Eat those.
Those
with
are the
caution.
killer ones, right?
Those are pretty darn hot.
They're right at the top of the
Different
scale,
kind of
right?
fire.
Up there with the reapers. We
Yeah.
also grow reapers, which are even hotter.
Are
but-
you, from what Sarah said, you're from a farm family?
Well, no. This whole farming thing was my idea when I was a teenager, pretty much.
Why? How? Why?
I, started picking some wild berries next to the road and put them out on a little card table in front of my parents'
Really?
house. And then I was like, Dad, let me take over the garden and I can grow some more stuff and have some more stuff to put on my
great.
table. And I got into it from that.
And CSA, as you say, was your entry point here, too. So what do you say to a young couple or a couple of young friends who really want to do this despite the obstacles? What kind of advice? I assume you're asked this kind of thing, Sarah. What do you say to people who want to get in the business, who care about it as much as you obviously do?
Well, I think it's really important to have resilience and be ready to work long hours and be very creative with very little resources, and find the people who care about doing it and eating it, just like you do.
You know, it's so funny. We have this RFK Jr. who talks endlessly about the healthy foods we should be eating. This is an example of all the healthy foods we should be eating, and you're not getting the help that would help more people.
They're withdrawing
be
the
able
help.
to eat
Yeah,
these foods.
it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It does not make sense
There's
whatsoever.
a lot of truth to some of the things he says that people do. You know, it would really benefit people to eat more fresh produce more frequently.
Yep.
Eat it, locally. Eat. The nutrition is so much better than something that's been on a truck.
Well, except we
shipped
haven't had a
across the
chance to talk about this yet since it happened. When he put out his second report the other day, he railed against ultra-processed foods again, as he should, but no vehicle to effectuate the policy. And obviously, the food companies are not going to do this unless there's a hammer over their heads, and there's no hammer.
Yeah, and the sad thing is that the movement that is able to provide this type of food, small farms, organic farms, the administration has done a lot of things
to hurt them.
Farms. They've taken away these grants. They've taken away the programs, the training programs. Like I was part of a climate resilience training program, like an online program for farms all over the Northeast about how to deal with our changing climate and, strategies we can take. Yeah, so this whole program, this whole educational program and peer mentor program, they canceled the funding for that. That's one of the things that has been cut.
We talked to Cy Montgomery, who is the best naturalist in America, about animals the other day, every month, every 2 weeks, and we were talking to her about, what are the names of those, the puffins, about how
the puffins.
And she admitted the unfortunate thing is the cuter the animal, the more public support they get. And I'm thinking about kids, and what is it, they have to eat something 9 times to start liking a healthy food if they didn't before? This is the superficial question. You'll understand the connection in a minute. When food is really attractive, and this is beautiful, it matters, doesn't it? I mean, does it matter to a person who is contemplating becoming a healthier eater that the food that's part of the healthy eating is not only healthy but attractive? Or am I barking up the wrong tree?
I think for sure. I mean, if it tastes really good, then you're going to be a lot more excited to eat it.
If it looks really good,
if it looks good,
really.
But
look at that
looks
lettuce.
Translate into flavor and a lot, to a certain
gorgeous.
extent. We find that all the time people join our farm as CSA members, or they come out to our pick your own fields and they bring their kids, and kids, when they go out and they're eating a cherry tomato off the vine, suddenly they really like those. They appreciate this stuff a lot more. There's nothing like eating a blueberry straight off the bush.
That is so true. That is really so true. Jim is too embarrassed to tell you that he's going to go eat hot dogs this afternoon at the
I'm not
Big
too
E.
embarrassed. Not too embarrassed. I'm going to eat the ones they're not going to eat. So can we end with these
what are those?
These husks are unbelievable. Where do they? I've had them before. Marjorie.
Well, yeah, we have these out at our Granby farm in the pick your own patch right now, and they fall to the ground when they're ripe.
Oh.
And they're kind of like a little candy, and you unwrap the papery husk and then eat what's inside.
What are they called?
Husk cherries.
Sometimes called ground cherries.
Or ground cherries.
What's that?
They fall to the ground once they're ripe.
That's perfect. You don't have to guess.
Pick them off. You can tell when they're ripe.
Is it okay for us to share to you guys that we are now building our new barn?
Oh, please, yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Are you doing a GoFundMe or anything, too?
We are just about to launch our GoFundMe.
Oh, please tell us.
And we have our page open right now on our website for people to come and help us build this thing that we really need in order to keep going.
What is it? How do you find
where's
it?
the website? What's the website?
redfirefarm.com, and right there on the home page you can find information for donating or getting involved, and
We're really glad you
we
mentioned
really could use a hand in bringing that thing together, because it's what's going to keep us going in farming.
Redfirefarm.com.
Redfirefarm.com if you'd like to help out to rebuild the barn that was taken down in the fire, and that was where your store was too. You said.
Yeah, I mean, we're open on a temporary basis. Like we've been since the fire, we've been operating out of a tent and some sheds that we brought in, and it's been pretty makeshift. But we've been able to put our produce out and have it for sale during the summer growing season, but we haven't been able to be open during the winter.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
last 2 years since the fire happened, because it's too cold under a tent and our climate's still to be able to, have produce not freezing in
Well,
the
go
winter.
check out the GoFundMe is up, you said, or it's about to be up?
We've got a way to donate on our
Great.
website, and then GoFundMe will be opening up Wednesday.
Redfirefarm.com.
So stay tuned for the stories and everything.
Great.
Okay,
It's great to meet you both.
redfirefarm.com. Ryan and
Lots
Sarah
of loves.
Voiland, co-owners of Red Fire Farm in Granby and Montague. That's how you say it, right?
That's right.
Montague?
Yep.
Okay. Coming up after this quick break.
Wonderful
And again,
to have you both.
redfirefarm.com is the website to go if you're inspired by listening to this discussion.
I am.
Yeah, and look at the food. Anyway, coming up after this quick break, Jim didn't want me to tell you about the hot dogs, but that's what's happening. We're going over to the Big E. It's kind of disgusting, but
We're gonna
that's where
waddle
we're going.
over the Big
Yeah, we're
E,
going
I
to waddle
believe,
over the
yes.
Big D.
E, not
Big
D.
E, Big E, whatever it is. We're,
Do you ever
we're
go to
going there.
You guys go to Big E, right? What do you mean?
County Fair.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a while.
When was the
Yeah.
last time you had hot? Oh, you don't eat hot. You're a
I don't
vegetarian.
eat the hot dogs, but my advice is if you're gonna take
Go
that
ahead.
processed food at all, you get some garnish. You can put some good tomatoes in
That's
there. You
right.
can put some
Idea.
sauerkraut
That's
in there.
right.
You can put some real food along with it, and you'll be
It's a
at least
beautiful concept.
a little bit further along.
I'm going to do that. Thank you.
Well, it is fair season. The Topsfield Fair is next month. Big E is going on now. King Richards is coming up. Jim and I are going to go to the Big E as soon as the on-air lights go off here in Springfield. We're going to open the lines to talk with you about all things having to do with fairs. You and fairs. Why do you like them? Why don't you? I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR on GBH and NEPM live from NEPM Star Studio, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. One more time, the website, redfirefarm.com. Thank you both very much for coming in.
Great to meet you.
Thanks for having us.
Learn something new.
I want to start with how crowds of people can act like fluids.
Yes.
What?
I mean, this is physics, so I love it.
Make a connection.
I have no idea who they voted for. I don't care. This tailgate in particular, everybody's welcome.
Dig a bit deeper.
We're often looking for a small secular liturgy for our lives, and poetry can provide that sometimes.
Stay curious with all things considered from NPR News.
This afternoon at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And American Repertory Theater with Passengers, a blend of cirque, music, dance, and superhuman skill. The New York Times writes, extraordinary acrobatics provide gasps of delight. amrep.org. And the University of Massachusetts Amherst. UMass, the state's flagship public research university, empowers students to be the future in the pursuit of progress for Massachusetts and beyond. More at umass.edu.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy live from NEPM Star Studio in Springfield, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. Back here tomorrow as well. The Attorney General joins us from 1 to 2 for Ask the AG. You can ask her a question. We're going to ask her questions. And we're on 11 to 2, whole 3 hours on NEPM today and tomorrow. Back at the Boston Public Library on Wednesday at the main branch. As you may have heard, because Marjorie mentioned about 42 times, we're in Springfield today and tomorrow. I meant that we're going to the Big E. It started Friday. It runs until the 28th. We're going tonight, and it's discount day, whatever that means. So if you're in the area, head over to the Big E. You'd be in for a site this afternoon. We'll be touring the Massachusetts building. The governor, as in Patrick, told us to do it. And, of course, eating absolutely everything in sight. So we're hoping, whether you're in Eastern Mass, Western Mass, Connecticut, wherever you're listening to the show, if you've been to the Big E, we'd love your recommendations for food, local character, anything. 877-301-8970. And even if you're not a Big E aficionado, if you want to talk about county and state fairs and what they've meant to you in your life, feel free to regale us with your best story at 877-301-8970. One of the women who's going to be with us tomorrow is going with us today, Liz Ramon, who works here. What did she do about a decade ago? Do you know what she did?
She lived at the Big E for 17 days.
You know what they called her? The Little E at the Big E. That's what we learned
Little
this
E at the
morning.
Big E.
By the way,
That's
an
very
anonymous
good.
texter says, is there a guest host on standby in case the Big E food kills Jim? And I would say,
Yeah.
it's not because of the quality. It may be the quantity. I am really, really looking forward to this. I would say the only fair, even arguably close to this, that I've ever been to is the Topsfield Fair.
Yeah,
which
with
I
those
haven't
big,
been to
huge
since my kids were
pumpkins,
little, like 20.
where
Yeah.
you go and see the pumpkin that's half the size of this room, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. But a lot of people are really into fairs. There's always a big mob scene for that King Richard's Fair down in Carver. Everybody gets dressed up in medieval outfits, and you can go to the axe throwing competition, Jim, and the nice jousting with swords and all that kind of, like you're back in King Arthur days. And then there's the Topsfield Fair, where all I know about Topsfield Fair is the huge pumpkins. And I've never been to the Big E before, but the stuffed baked potatoes look really good. I could get into that. And the broccoli tempura, I could get into that. You want one of those flatliner things, but it sounds really gross.
Not flatliner things, a flatliner hot dog, which
Flatliner
I'm
hot
told
dog.
is at the West Springfield Lions Club. It has chili, bacon, cheddar, and fries on it. And in honor of Ryan, who was here a minute ago, I'm going to slice up like a cherry tomato and put some of that.
What about the lobster volcano? Did you tell me about that?
No, I didn't tell you. The Globe story.
Yeah, the Globe story. But you were going on and on about
I'm doing that.
So it's a lobster bisque with some stuffed crab.
You know what I did? It
and
was really
lobster
nice.
pieces
You know
in
what
there?
the NEPM people did,
What?
which was really generous. That not only are they hosting us, they brought a stretcher for you and Jamie and Zoe to carry me. It's got a little NEPM on it, and you can carry me out of the fair today, probably at 6 or 7 o'clock.
Corn dogs, cotton candy, funnel cake, and lemonade, says a texter. Okay.
877-301-8970 is the number.
Somebody just texted from that has worked at the King Richard's Fair, and they said they also have, in addition to people jousting and axe throwing, they also have blueberries and blackberries and strawberries from a family fair farm down there, the Thayer Family Farm. Those CSA things, though, they're great, though. You can sign up for those, and you can get those. You can get them in Boston. You can certainly get them up here, and you get the fresh food from the farm places. Well, a lot of people don't understand the concept.
Okay, so explain the concept.
Well, you sign up and you get the fresh food as soon as it's harvested, if it's a springer, and you can get stuff all winter long. It's really kind of neat.
You know what I signed up for yesterday? I didn't tell you.
What?
I signed up for the CSA Flatliner hot dog. They're delivering right. By the way, let me just say this, get this out of the way, because I know you're going to text about this or call about this. Yes, it is true. We have cited many times the University of Michigan study. This is true from a few years ago that said for every hot dog you eat, you lose 35 minutes of your life. You die 35 minutes earlier. I would say it's well worth it. Would you not? Oh, you like a good hot dog, don't you? Maybe not as much as me. Okay, well, obviously not. Now, let me tell you something. At the White Hut, I've done some preparation for this. You've obviously done none.
I don't know about White Hut.
You didn't know where the Flatliner hot dog is, West Springfield Lions Club. At the White Hut, if you choose not to have a Flatliner hot dog or if the line is too long, you can get a 2-foot hot dog, Marjorie, with chili, cheese, and wait a second, it's at the Meatball Factory?
Yeah.
Well, it's either at the White Hut or the Meatball Factory, one of those two. I don't know. 877-301-8970. So we're looking for some tips, either in terms of fair going in general, or if you have Big A experience, we'd really love you to share that with us.
Okay, 877-301-8970.
Are you as into this as I'm? I'm also into the civics lesson of the whole kind of. We're not exactly fair going kind of people. Would you agree?
Well, I used to go to the Barnstable County Fair all the time.
Which?
Barnstable County Fair. They had it every summer.
What is it?
It's down on the Cape.
Why?
And we would go every
It's in
summer.
Barnstable,
And they'd
but
have, they'd have big pigs. They'd have big pumpkins. They'd have, the carousel rides. They have rides at the Big E too, and they have all the suspicious-looking people. Those bad 16-year-old boys that are in charge of the rides.
Well, it's like a carnival thing.
Yeah, like a carnival thing. So it was always kind of fun. And then you'd pay money. And you try to knock out the stuffed animals. At the different tables.
Did you ever do that?
Once I did actually get a stuffed animal.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
That's very nice.
I spent a lot of money trying to get them.
It's a heartwarming story.
Okay, 877-301-8970. Well, you grew up in Philadelphia. I don't imagine they had any big county fairs in the middle of Philadelphia.
No, actually, I went to a place. Actually, I can't. I went to a fair in about an hour and a half away from Philadelphia that was. It was a fairly sketchy kind of. It was
somebody just called
Carbondale, Pennsylvania. For those that don't know,
King Richard's, the S&M Fair in Carver. That's not very nice.
It is.
No,
well, then why'd you read it then?
I don't know, because it was different.
Okay, let's go to Ann in Shrewsbury to start. No, Ann, I don't think you are first. That was my mistake.
Gary,
I'll get to you in a second. Hi, Gary. How are you?
Gary in North Reading. Thank you for calling, Gary.
Hi.
Hi.
What do you got for us?
I just wanted to mention my family are big fans of the Topsfield Fair, and we visit every fall. And my father-in-law, my late father-in-law, his name was Hugh Weiberg, and he actually was the gentleman who proposed to the Topsail Fair that they run the giant pumpkin way off.
Oh, yeah, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal, and many years ago, decades ago, he made that proposal, and they agreed. And initially, they brought all the pumpkin growers in on the last day of the fair, and they did the big way off. And in those days, a big pumpkin would be about 400, 500 pounds.
What's like 1,200 now?
Wow.
It's over 2,000 now.
Wow.
They're huge. And so my father-in-law, after the first few years of that, he proposed that they do the way off on the first day of the fair, knowing that would bring publicity in from all the local news stations and whatnot. So that's become the tradition now for the last 2 decades or more.
But Gary, I've always wanted to ask this question, and you're the guy to ask it to, since you were the son-in-law. What do you do with a 2,000-pound pumpkin when the fair is over?
Well, they get to be pretty ugly when they grow that big, so there's not a lot you can do with them. But the ones that are several hundred pounds, often they make good landscaping designs. I know my father-in-law used to donate them to, banks and, organizations in town. He also supported the Wilmington. He was from Wilmington, Mass., and they had a Horribles parade each year.
Horribles.
And he would donate one of his pumpkins, and they'd carve it out, and it would be, kind of the centerpiece of the celebration.
Well, that's a wonderful piece of Topsfield history. Thanks for sharing that with us,
You could
Gary.
have a
Really
massive
You're very welcome.
Halloween lantern pumpkin cut up.
Didn't we have some kid on who was like in his teens? Who grew like a 2,000-pound pumpkin a bunch of years ago?
He was a pumpkin champion.
He was a pumpkin champion.
I've kind of forgotten about him. Listen to this. Here's a texter who says, I love going to these fairs at night. There's something magical, mystical, and slightly creepy about the midway after dark.
I would do that, but I'm expecting to be in the ER by tonight. So it's going to be a little difficult. If I get out, if I'm released in enough time, I will go back.
Another
and check
texter wants
it
to
out.
know if Jim is going to set a new weight record after eating everything and becoming a giant pumpkin himself.
I can't. By the way, you're going to do well this afternoon too.
I love that.
You can put it away.
I can put it away. Not so much hot dogs, but I'm really into baked stuffed potatoes.
Yeah.
You can put the sour cream and the bacon and all that kind of stuff on it. And broccoli tempura. I've never had broccoli tempura.
I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, it's quite excellent, but it is broccoli. I love broccoli, by the way, but it ain't a hot dog. Let's put it that way.
Okay, let's go to Mary Alice, who's calling from Rosendale, I think.
Hey, Mary Alice.
Hi, Mary Alice.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi. First time, long time.
Love
Great
that.
to talk to you.
Love that, yeah. Go ahead.
Hey, I wanted to tell you about the Iowa State Fair, which is fantastic. Why people go to Disney, I don't know. We can go to the fair.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to tell you about was when my dad was dying, he said, when will you take my ashes back to Iowa to bury them? And I said, well, Dad, in August during the fair, so we can go to the fair. And he said, great. He was so excited that we were going to do that. So we went to the fair with the family one day and saw the butter cow and the butter Caitlin Clark. And then I went back. Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Wait a minute.
Carved out of butter, right?
I didn't know they did that.
Yep.
Okay.
Wow.
The butter cow is famous.
Yeah.
And so we stood in the line to look at the butter cow, and then I went back the day after the burial with my friend, and we were watching them show pigs, which I didn't even know you did. And there was a young man, probably 9 or 10, sitting behind us with a man who was coaching him because this kid was going to show his pigs for the first time that afternoon. And the little boy was very serious, and he says to the guy, what breed do you think the butter cow is?
Oh.
And the man says, there's a pause, and the man says, probably Land O'Lakes. And of course, the kid doesn't get it.
That's great.
But I about fell off the bench. But anyway, that's what I wanted to share.
Before you go away, did the butter Caitlin Clark look like Caitlin Clark?
I didn't even know who she was at that time.
Oh.
So it was a butter girl. I don't know.
Can you imagine the honor of being carved out of butter?
Did you know about the brother and sister
Mary
team?
Alice, thank you very much.
That steer the pigs around. Remember we saw them on TV? They steer the pigs around in the corral there.
No.
Yeah. It's like in Charlotte's Web. They bring the...
Charlotte's Web's like fictional.
That's right. Well,
Okay.
Yeah, but we think there was a big pig involved.
We had people on the show who led pigs around.
Yes,
we did.
They didn't lead them around. They used wands or something to get them to go in certain directions. Yeah, it was they were like the champion pig whisperers or something like that.
Pig whisperer,
a brother and sister.
Do we have anybody who actually on the line who actually has been to the Big E as opposed to the Iowa State Fair or the whatever it was?
Yes, we have Erin from Brookline.
Oh, Erin from
who's
Brookline.
going to tell us about the Big E.
Go ahead. What's up, Erin?
Hi, Erin.
Erin, hello.
Hi, guys. Well, I'm a pro at the Big E. I've been going since I was in a stroller. I grew up in North Haven, Connecticut. Now I live up here.
Mm-hmm.
But since you're there not at the beginning of the day, I go whole day. But I'm just going to give you 3 things that I think you should definitely hit since you can't spend the whole
Marjorie's
day.
writing them down.
I'm writing them down.
Good. So the main baked potato, I think they mentioned last week, and they already told you guys about. I know the line looks intimidating, but I promise it goes fast. It's the top reason I go every year or try to go every year. And then also the Sam Adams Beer Garden. Oh, and I did say the main building. Yeah. The Sam Adams Beer Garden, you can... Oh, sorry, Marjorie. Go ahead.
What was the line for the baked stuffed potato? That's a really big line. Is that the one you're saying? We should wade in?
Okay. That's in the main building.
Okay.
The state building. And then at the Sam Adams Beer Garden, which is practically across the street, you can actually get cherry wheat on draft, and you can hardly get cherry wheat on draft anywhere else.
That sounds
and then
great.
also in our building, in the Massachusetts building, you can also get a Finnish pancake for dessert, and you can either get that with blueberry or syrup. I always get mine with syrup.
A Finnish pancake?
So Deval Patrick, when we had him on at 11:30, was raving about the Massachusetts Pavilion or whatever, and we were too embarrassed to admit we didn't know anything about it. So what is it? What is it?
Well, each of the New England states have their own state buildings,
Right.
so you can just kind of walk your way through each one, and they have businesses, foods, all the stuff that the states are known for. So, ours obviously has a lot of seafood and other things, but my favorite is the Finnish pancake.
But it's a tribute to the food. It's not like, for example, they would honor, let me just think, the fact that we had 3 speakers in a row who were felons. They wouldn't be that. It'd be about the food.
And why a
Erin,
Finnish?
thank you.
Why a Finnish
Erin
pancake?
can answer. Go ahead, Erin. Why Finnish?
Yeah.
Oh, that I actually don't
We'll
know.
find out. We'll get to the bottom of
investigate.
it. We'll find out.
We'll do some
Have a great
investigative.
time.
Erin,
Thank
we
you.
are going to have a great time. Thank you. We're going to follow your recommendations. I'm worried we're not going to get to enough places.
I love pancakes.
You do love
Well,
pancakes.
we have
potato pancakes last night at that German
We
joint.
did, but there's 5 of us, right? So we can kind of spread
For
out.
many of
we
us,
can
I think.
strategize.
No, we have to. No, there's got to be a plan. I mean, there's got to be a plan before you even get there.
Well, that's right.
About how you're
but
going
if
to
you're
do
going to be
that.
standing in long lines, not everybody can stand in the same long line. I think that's a waste of time.
Well, can I
Jim.
tell you what the plan's going to be?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be sitting at a picnic table. As soon as you get to the front of the line, you bring the thing back to me, and I'll be
Okay.
happy to share it with
You
you.
think he's joking? He's not.
I'm not joking.
Let's go to Bob in the car. Hi, Bob.
Hello, Bob in a car.
Hi. I agree with the previous caller that you need to go to the avenue of the states, where each state has a building.
Write that down.
Some of my favorites are the apple pie with cheddar cheese in the Vermont State Building. It's out of this world. And somehow, who knew that cheese and apple pie work so well together?
How often have you been to this thing, Bob?
also-
How often have you been here?
Well, I go back and forth, but I have lived in Springfield, in the Springfield area, for about 40 years.
Oh.
So I've been over there a lot.
Okay.
And the other building that I like a lot is the Rhode Island building,
Why?
where you can get Rhode Island stuffies, the stuffed clams.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Those are outstanding as well. But certainly the Avenue of the States has the best food.
Okay.
Each state puts out what they think are their best products. And in Maine, of course, if they still have those small, intensely flavored blueberries, give that a try.
Oh, my goodness. Remember Blueberries for Sal, that book about blueberry picking in Maine? Yes.
Hey, that was very helpful, Bob. Thank you very much.
You know
for
what
the
they
call.
also say Vermont has really done well is maple cotton candy, maple sugar candy, maple sriracha, and maple roasted almonds.
You know what the problem with cotton candy is, if I got to be honest here?
It's too sugary.
It gets stuck on your face.
Yeah,
I mean, what do you
that's true.
do when it gets stuck on your face?
Well, you have to pick it off, Jim. That's what.
How do
have
you
to
do that?
You have to have someone tell you that you've got cotton candy. And
You know what I did? I probably shouldn't have done this, but since I want to be honest about this, I was anxious last night about getting cotton candy stuck on my face. So as we were returning to our rooms, I asked Jamie if he'd pick it off my face if I got it. And you know what's even worse?
Hello?
He said he would. So,
don't do it, Jamie.
I
Don't
figured
do it.
That's the least I could do.
Okay, Kristen from Sterling. Thank you for calling.
Hey, Kristen.
Yes, hi. Second time, long time.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to say about the fair. I've been going since I was a kid. I'm no longer a kid. I'm 58. But the displays there are always the same. Something I remember from when I was 11 will still be there Thursday when I go to volunteer. So speaking of the Massachusetts building and the finished pancakes, right next to the finished pancakes, after you've had your finished pancake, go to the Mass Maple booth. That's where I'm volunteering on Thursday for the Massachusetts maple producers, and try a maple cone. It's a maple cream cone, and it is going to go down so easy. You're going to love it.
Sounds
Is that what they call the creamies, Kristen? They call them creamies?
I don't know if we call them creamies. I've never heard them called
Oh,
creamies.
okay.
It's a maple cream cone.
Okay.
And it's just
Creamy's a
it's like
Vermont
little
thing,
ice cream
isn't it?
cone.
I think. I don't know.
A maple-infused
Totally
soft serve.
delicious.
Kristen, we're going to check it out. Thank you very much for the recommendation. Dano and Dudley raises a good point. He says, if eating a hot dog equals 35 minutes less of life, Jim should have been dead 3 years ago. Now, that I have defied predictions based on my hot dog consumption.
You know, you have to plan this out, though, because you don't want the desserts. You have to go through the
it's
main
like-
courses first and then
It's
get
like
to the desserts.
I've eaten at buffets with you. Marjorie is the only person at a buffet who gets rolls at the beginning of the experience, which is exactly what they hope, that you'll have a roll.
Well,
so you won't have the lobster or
I like
the
rolls.
prime. I understand,
I like
Marjorie.
rolls.
You can buy a roll for like 30
You know what else
cents
I really
afterwards.
like?
What?
Butter.
Yeah.
On the roll.
Well, can I tell you something?
Especially if it's a cinnamon swirl
Can I tell you,
roll.
your next anniversary on
Yep.
our station,
Yep.
we're going to actually craft a butter version. We'll show like the Caitlin
butter-
Clark one.
butter Marjorie?
Butter Marjorie, yeah. A Land O'Lakes Marjorie is that woman.
I didn't know they did that.
I told you I went to a bar mitzvah not
supposed
terribly
to get
long
too
ago,
hot. You have to-
where the little kid was carved on I'm raising my right hand, life size, out of chopped liver. I'm raising my right hand, so you know it's true. They're rather doting on their
that was a little much.
young son
Yeah,
there.
that was a little much.
But anyway.
Okay, let's go to another Kristen from Amesbury. Hi.
Hello, Kristen.
Hi, Jim and Marjorie. So happy to get through.
We're happy to have you.
Oh, thank you. You're usually so grumpy. I appreciate that.
He really is. You got it, Kristen. Yeah, that's
We all know
right.
it. We all know it.
Thank
Anyway, the reason why I'm calling is I have not been to the Big E, but there will be a gentleman and his daughter there, Mr. Silby. He used to own Silby Sweets at Salisbury Beach, Mass. And he and his daughter make thousands and thousands of cream puffs, and they're supposed to be unreal. So try to hit them. They're from, he's from Newburyport, Mass.
Thank you.
Do you know what I love
Mr.
about
Silby.
this so far?
Tell us
Everybody
how
has
it
a.
goes.
Yes, thank
Sounds
you very
great.
much. Oh, one of the
So,
text.
and I'm only plugging him, like, not like in a pluggy way, but more because his chocolate is unreal. It's like so good. I can't imagine that these cream puffs are not phenomenal as well.
Kristen, let me ask you something.
I
When
love
you
cream
leave
puffs.
this thing, how do you feel when you leave the Big E at the end
Sick
of the
to
day?
your stomach.
No, I'm asking Kristen. You haven't been there
No,
yet.
I've never been, but
She's never been.
I'm sorry.
What I would like to know is how you feel, Jim, after you have that hot dog thing you've been talking about for a week and a half.
Well, you know how I'm going to be, Kristen, according to you? Grumpy is how I'm going to be.
That's right.
Kristen. Thank you, Kristen. We appreciate your
We have a
call.
text from Harriet Heineman.
Oh, don't do this.
She
Let's not
says
do this.
she will gladly lick the cotton
don't-
candy
don't.
off your face.
Thank
Love
goodness.
always, Harriet.
Thank God we're being visited at a totally appropriate moment.
Yeah, that's right. Ooh, some
What is she
champagne.
doing? Oh my God!
My God, we got some champagne here.
Bring this.
This was, by the way, we made a joke. Well, why don't you explain the joke that is being effectuated right here? This
That's right.
is unbelievable.
That's right.
This is a
plug in her
person just off
microphone.
the street who happened in the studio.
Yeah, just off the street.
Please state your name again. What is it?
Khalees Smith.
Oh, you're that Khalees Smith?
I am
Hi,
that
Khalees.
Smith.
Now, what did you bring with you, please?
I brought a bottle of bubbly that we were told to be kept on ice when we brought it into the studio when you visited.
La-di-da.
Really
La-di-da. Thank you very much.
Here it is, appropriately on ice.
So can you tell me...
Khalees, you must have been to the Big E once or twice.
I've been once.
Yeah.
I have been once.
She looks like that's it for her.
As we mentioned when we talked to you, like I find the bigger festivals, the bigger fairs a little overwhelming, so I keep it to the hill towns. I go to Cummington, I go to Heath. Sometimes I go to Franklin County, but I find that even like a little too large for me.
Oh, don't be a downer. Now, come on. Now, first of all, thank you. This is very generous.
Which is
of you
ironic
guys.
because I am from the biggest city. Well, from the biggest city around here. Like I'm from Boston. I'm from Dorchester. So like I shouldn't be overwhelmed by like how large those things are, but I am.
What are your coworkers saying behind their backs about us now that we've been? I mean, we've totally destroyed the studio. That is clear. Food is all over the place. You're probably not supposed to eat in here. Paper is on the walls.
Yeah.
Tell us what they're honest. They're not happy, right?
They're fine.
They're not good with us.
No, they're really
grumpy.
You know,
Grumpy, Jim.
Honestly, super excited to have you downstairs in the cafe seeing it live and in person, and really excited about the fact that Red Fire Farm brought them a crap load of tomatoes.
Is that beautiful? Did you see that stuff?
They are always beautiful. I used to have a farm share with them ages ago, and it was like really, really a treat.
It doesn't make you feel very healthy.
I mean, I have a farm share also because I live in Western Mass and want to give back to the agricultural community, but like, it's just really cool. Like,
yeah, it is really cool.
Yeah.
And it makes you eat vegetables you might otherwise not eat. Right?
So is Monty protesting our presence?
Monty is currently working as the guest bailiff for Judge John Hodgman.
We talked about that. Yes.
So you get me
I would do
alone,
that
sadly.
Too. We're thrilled to have you.
100% less dad jokes.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
Okay.
We'll be listening, by the way.
Thank
that is
you
very
very much
exciting.
for that
Well,
bottle
there
of
are exciting
champagne.
things happening.
Great to see you. Say hi for us.
Hello.
Hello.
Will do.
We want to tell everybody we're going to be here tomorrow from 11 to 2 as well. We're going to be talking with the NAACP's Michael Curry. We're going to talk with the Wildflower Alliance people. We're going to be talking with NEPM's Liz Roman, who's lived for 17 days with Big A. We're going to find all about that. Attorney General
Big E.
Big E. Why do I keep getting the wrong
Big A is
letter?
Aqueduct
I've said
Racetrack.
Big D. I've said Big C. Big E. It is Big E.
Okay.
And if you see her today, check out her Crocs. They're donuts.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have time to thank the crew? Zoe Matthews, Aiden Collin, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, John LeClaw Parker, Jane Bologna, our NEPM team, Kara Foster, Chris Schwanter, Ayu Siriwan. Thank you. Crick Dubé, Brad, Tony, Bart Rankin, Tony Dunn, John Sutton, Matt Abramovitz. We're going to the Big E, not the Big A.
What are you doing
or
on
the
your
Big
show
D.
quickly today, by the way? We forgot to ask you.
Life on Mars with Mr. Universe, the possible consolidation of 6 towns into one regional educational district, and the family that wrote a book about the Big E that you can see while you're there.
Oh, yes.
Super cute.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's where you say, I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy.
Thank you very much
Here
for
she
tuning
is?
in, Jim. Yes,
I'm
I
in a
do.
Super.
She's
Hi,
Khalees
Khalees.
Smith.
Great to see you.
And she
Good to
brought
see
us
you
the
also.
champagne.
See you tomorrow, and thank you, Springfield.
Bye.